Category 5 cause you to come to new tax measures. Hurricane is not, and taxes are not new. But you know, which of the hurricane was the worst hurricane? That hurricane, Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Shaw, Hurricane and all of them. That's the hurricane that caused those measures. But above all,
while chanting Hurricane Andrew in an obvious reference to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, Senator Brown took aim at the government's tax package and general management of the economy. The opposition lawmaker argued that the fallout from Hurricane Melissa is a thin excuse for new taxes.
And then no new taxes story has come to an end. So the fact that a new hurricane Category 5 caused you to come to new tax measures. Hurricane is not, and taxes are not new. But you know, which of the hurricane was the worst hurricane? That hurricane, Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Shaw, Hurricane and all of them.
That is Mr. Lambert Brown, Senator Brown, calling the Prime Minister Hurricane Andrew. I only have half an hour. You know, there is something troubling when metaphor replaces reason in a parliament that is meant to be a sanctuary of reason. Imagine Lambert Brown, Senator Lambert Brown, calling the Prime Minister Hurricane Andrew. You know, the Speaker should have, well, the President of the Senate, Tom Tavares Finson. You know, I couldn't be a senator. And I heard Mr. Apka Fitz-Henley's response to him, which was measured. But I'm not sitting in any Senate with Mr. Lambert Brown calling Andrew Holness no Hurricane Andrew. Senator Brown out of order. People down our country would say rank. They're saying rank. Yes. The parliament is being diminished by this type of reasoning. When Lambert Brown rises to describe Andrew Holness as a hurricane, he's not offering any economic analysis. He's offering weather insults. You know, but politics at its best is not. Mr. Lambert Brown should go get a job at the Met Office. Yes. Let's begin with the first principles. Taxation is not poetry, but it does have a logic. Right? And let us be honest about history. Under administrations which Omar Davis and Peter Phillips guided, Jamaica endured cycles of taxation and austerity that weighed heavily on the standard of living. Lambert Brown. Those were not poetic inconveniences. They were lived realities for household navigating higher cost and tighter margins. If we were to use weather metaphors, one might ask, without malice, were repeated tax burdens felt more like passing showers or lingering storms? Was Peter Phillips a hurricane? Now, if Andrew Holness is a hurricane, what is Peter Phillips? Who is Peter Phillips? If Andrew Holness is a hurricane, what you call Omar and PJ? And that's precisely the point. serious governance should not be reduced to branding exercises. That is low in the Senate. The Senate has been a joke, man. You know, there's a difference between wit and wisdom. And when Lambert Brown chose to label Andrew Holness as Hurricane Andrew, he may have been reaching for applause, but in doing so, he diminishes the seriousness of the debate. And frankly, the scale of Jamaica's economic transformation over the past decade needs to be brought back into this discussion. Since as Mr. Lambert Brown think that Andrew Holness is a hurricane, I'm asking my listeners to don't get us started here on the Politics Plus podcast, because we will show them where the hurricane come from, you know. We're going to show them who was really hurricane. A hurricane destroys foundations. And the record of Jamaica tells us who was the real hurricane. So, Mr. Brown, you start a debate. I hope you can finish it. You want to really talk about hurricane in Jamaica? Hurricane, economic hurricane? Take the Senate for joke, man. You know, there was a time when all a man like Senator Brown couldn't be in the Senate, you know. And it does say something about Mark Golding, that a man like Senator Lambert Brown is still a senator. You'd have expected that the Senate would have been a place of higher reasoning. Under the Prime Minister, Jamaica has experienced one of the most significant macroeconomic turnarounds in its modern history. That's not a hurricane. Public debt, once crushing and structurally dangerous, has reduced dramatically as a share of GDP. This is not cosmetic accounting. That is structural repair. What Holness is a doctor, is a surgeon. You're bright. I could call the man hurricane. You're bright, Lambert. You're bright. You're out of order. You know, labor rights or neighbor rights, whatever. No, if you talk up, you know. No, if you talk up. Help me, man. Talk up, man. Man, bright. Let's get back to this. Let us listen again to Mr. Lambert Brown.
While chanting Hurricane Andrew in an obvious reference to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, Senator Brown took aim at the government's tax package and general management of the economy. The opposition lawmaker argued that the fallout from Hurricane Melissa is a thin excuse for new taxes.
And the no new taxes story has come to an end. So the fact that a new hurricane category 5 caused you to come to new tax measures. Hurricane is not, and taxes are not new. But you know, which of the hurricane was the worst hurricane? That hurricane, Hurricane Ardnishaw, Hurricane and all of them. That's the hurricane that caused those measures.
You want to tell me that Lambert Brown was allowed to say that in the Senate? Hurricane Andrew? Lower debt means lower interest burdens, greater fiscal flexibility, and less vulnerability to external shock. Poverty too has declined. That matters more than rhetoric, Mr. Brown. Economic growth is not meaningful unless it changes lived reality. A reduction in poverty represents opportunity restored, families stabilized, children better nourished, households in less precarious positions. Unemployment has fallen to historic lows during this administration. Jobs are not metaphors. They are dignity, Mr. Brown. A job is the clearest signal that an economy is functioning for its people. A hurricane does not create jobs. It wipes them away. So the metaphor collapses under scrutiny. That's the best you could come with. You know, Aristotle reminds us that virtue in leadership lies in prudence, practical wisdom directed towards the common good. Prudent governance is steady, disciplined, often unglamorous. It's not theatrical. And the decade-long refusal to raise taxes unless an extraordinary circumstances demanded it was an exercise in restraint, not recklessness. And if we are to use imagery, let us at least choose accurate imagery. Hurricanes leave wreckage. What wreckage has wholeness left? Hurricane cause unemployment. What unemployment has wholeness caused? Hurricane shut down businesses. Which business wholeness shut down? Hurricane caused people to lose them work. Which work people lose? Hurricane puts the country in debt. What debt wholeness put the country in? Economic recovery leaves resilience. Hurricanes increases instability. Fiscal consolidation and job growth increase stability. Hurricanes deepen poverty. Sustained growth and employment reduces it. One may disagree with policies. One may debate the structure of a tax package. One may argue for alternative fiscal path. That is democracy. But to brand the Prime Minister who presided over failing debt, declining poverty, and record unemployment as a storm of destruction is not an analysis. It's foolishness. It's not an argument. It's nonsense. Parliament deserves critique rooted in data. And the President of the Senate needs to cut out this nonsense and tell Mr. Brown to come with better argument. Jamaica deserves politics that is mature enough to distinguish between natural disaster and national recovery. And if we summon the language of weather, let's be honest, the last decade has not been a hurricane. The last decade has been a slow, disciplined clearing of skies that were once dark with debt and doubt. And if we are going to reach for the language of storms, then let us at least reserve it for tempest worthy of the name. You want to hear about hurricane? If we're going to talk about storm, let's reserve it. The true economic hurricane in this country, in modern Jamaica, was not a decade of falling debt and expanding employment. It was the financial sector collapse of the 1990s. The crisis we know as the Financial Sector Adjustment Company, FinSAC, that was the hurricane. That was the storm. Mr. Brown, institution failed. Confidence evaporated. Thousands lost their savings. Thousands of businesses closed, erasing generational wealth. The state intervened at extraordinary fiscal cost, absorbing massive liabilities that ballooned the national debt for decades. The consequences were not rhetorical, Mr. Lambert Brown. They were structural. Jamaica entered the 2000 burdened by one of the highest debt to GDP ratio in the world. A drag on growth that shaped an entire generation. You talk about hurricane? We haven't recovered from that yet. That crisis unfolded under the administration of the People's National Party, the very party Senator Lambert Brown represents and defends. You all hypocrite. Brown, you're a hypocrite. And if we are to speak of hurricanes in economic life, then FinSAC qualifies. It was systemic. It was devastating. And it required years, indeed decades, of fiscal tightening and sacrifices to stabilize. We have only had one economic hurricane in this country. As a matter of fact, we have had two. We had one in the 70s and we had one in the 90s. Offensive to be calling the Prime Minister hurricane. Out of order. Shouldn't even be spending much time on this. By contrast, the administration of Andrew Holness inherited the aftershocks of that era. Towering debts, constrained public investment, limited fiscal space. The past decade has been defined not by explosion, but by consolidation, debt reduction, improved investor confidence, historic low in unemployment, and measurable declines in poverty. One storm swelled the debt to suffocating levels. What Holness has done is methodically reduced it. One storm destabilized the financial architecture of the country. What Holness has done is strengthened macroeconomic credibility. You know, we must be careful of language that erode political reality. When we flatten all history into a slogan, when we call recovery a hurricane, we distort public memory. A fool, you know, a fool of the Jamaican people, you know. And in this country here where there is a concern about civic illiteracy, it's a distorting of public memory. Serious nations must remember their true crises clearly, not blur them for partisan convenience, which is why I am a little disappointed with that journalist today talking about sound bites, feeding into the political theater. We're tired of sound bites. We need strong, reasoned journalism to expose this rubbish. A government presiding over declining debt ratios and record unemployment is not a storm. It is the long disciplined work of rebuilding after the storm. And if we are going to invoke weather, let us do so with honesty. Let us not mistake the architect. Wholeness is an architect. Repairing the roof that the PNP wind blow off. Wholeness is the builder. PNP blow off Jamaica roof. And Wholeness not only put it on, but strap it down so that no further hurricane can blow it up. Go on with that argument, Mr. Lambert Brown. That no make no sense. You know it no make no sense, but you look at a sound bite. And you got it. You got your sound bite. I only have a little time. Let's take a break and come right back. In the little time that I have left, if we're going to speak the language of storms, then the language must speak with historical proportions. When Hurricane Melissa struck, it tore through communities. When Hurricane Melissa struck, it damaged infrastructure. When Hurricane Melissa struck, it disrupted livelihoods. It left visible scars. It took lives. Twisted zinc, flooded farms, broke up roads. Natural disasters carry an immediate trauma, displacement, fear, uncertainty. They disrupt not only economies, but psyches. They remind a nation of its fragility. But Jamaica has endured an economic hurricane before, and its winds were not weather. They were financial. Let me remind you. The collapse of the financial sector led to the Financial Sector Adjustment Company, FinSAC. FinSAC was arguably the most devastating economic storm in our modern history. At its peak, the cost of resolving the financial sector crisis amounted to roughly 40% of the country's gross domestic product. That is not a talking point. That's not a talking point. That is a hurricane scale devastation in fiscal terms. Entire financial institutions failed. You want us to name them? Savings were wiped out. Asset value collapsed. The state absorbed enormous liabilities, pushing public debt to suffocating levels for decades. In macroeconomic language, that is what a hurricane looks like. Consider the parallel. A powerful hurricane like Melissa can inflict losses measured as a significant share of the national output. homes flattened, crops destroyed, commerce halted. But natural disasters pass. The winds subside, then the reconstruction have to begin. Here's the difference. FINSAC did not pass quickly. It lingered. And that is why it was so devastating. How long did Hurricane Melissa pass over? Maybe 24 hours or less. How long did FINSAC last? And let me tell you this. The multiplier effect. The multiplier effect. I tell you something. The multiplier effect rippled onwards for years. You know, when these people talk in parliament, they need... When financial institutions collapse, credit tightens. When credit tightens, businesses fail. When businesses fail, unemployment rises. When unemployment rises, poverty deepens. When poverty deepens, people turn to crime. You wonder why we had such high crime levels? It's FINSAC. That's what a hurricane does. No. You want us to talk this through? How many people did Hurricane Melissa unalive? How many people? The statistics from the government suggest that it was under 50. The gentleman last night, what is his name? Connecting the dot, revealed to many of us aghastment that over a 20-year period, 30,000 people were unalived in Jamaica. 30,000. 30,000. Now, how many of those people were unalived as a result of the harsh social conditions that permeated the country over that period? Why? Because of the hurricane, the financial hurricane named FINSAC. Let me go over the multiplier effect because it is important to understand. When Mr. Brown is going to refer to a Jamaican prime minister as hurricane, what he must understand is it requires a response. When financial institutions fail, when they collapse, you can't get money to borrow. You can't get credit. Okay? When businesses can't get credit, they fail. Because if you are in a business, you know that it has to be capitalized as you go along. Sometimes after 4 or 5 years, you don't make a profit. You still have to be borrowing money to put in it. You can't get credit, you have to lock it down. Where are you going to find the money? You don't have the capital. We don't have generational wealth in Jamaica. When businesses lock down, they have to lay off their workers. So you don't have employment. You go into Kingston. My moderator is telling me that I need to go a little long, but I'm out of time. I tell you the truth. Let me. Moderator? Hello?
Yes, neighbor.
Yeah, my time is out, you know. So what do I do?
Continue, neighbor.
Oh, I wonder
let's go back to this and let's pick this up here and go back to Lambert Brown.
While chanting Hurricane Andrew in an obvious reference to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, Senator Brown took aim at the government's tax package and general management of the economy. The opposition lawmaker argued that the fallout from Hurricane Melissa is a thin excuse for new taxes.
And the no new taxes story has come to an end. So the fact that a new hurricane category 5 a year caused you to come to new tax measures. Hurricane is not, and taxes are not new. But you know, which of the hurricane was the worst hurricane? That hurricane, Hurricane Audley Shaw, Hurricane and all of them. That's the hurricane.
Now, this requires a stronger response from the Jamaica Labour Party. Yes? Consider the parallel. A powerful hurricane like Melissa inflicts losses measured as a significant share of the country's national output. Homes are flattened. Crops are destroyed. Commerce halted. But natural hurricanes pass. The winds subside. Reconstruction begins. FinSAC is still with us. This country is still recovering from Hurricane FinSAC. And as I said before we went on the break, that its multiplier effects are rippling through the country. There are people lying down up at Dovecot because of it. And ask you that. There are people lying down with their bones white down at Meadowrest because of that. Down at Maypen Cemetery downtown on Spanish Town Road. There are people in there because of FinSAC. Because of the multiplier effect. Don't come fool up Jamaican people, you hear, sir? Because when you shut down your financial institutions and people can't get credit, and when the businesses close, 40,000 businesses, FinSAC was more devastating than Melissa. Don't get me started here tonight. When unemployment rises, there needs to be a sociological study of the impact of FinSAC on lives in Jamaica. The chain reaction, prostitution, breaking up of families, the economic equivalent of storm surge, winds, it's a tsunami. And beyond the balance sheets was the sociological trauma. There are people run away from Jamaica. Others unalive themselves. Families who had built savings over a lifetime saw them evaporate. Entrepreneurs lost their collateral. Homeowners lost their properties. Trust, the invisible glue of financial systems, fractured. A generation internalized caution, skepticism, even fear towards formal finance. People stop saving with bank account, with banks, put their money on a machine. Then we got the Ponzi schemes. Why do you think the Ponzi schemes came about? Such was the shock to people's psychological well-being that they didn't know if to do their money. They were skeptic. Fear the formal financial sector. Economic pain became psychological memory. Even today, there are people who have not returned to the formal financial sector. They do not trust it. Hurricane Melissa may have shaken roofs, Senator Brown, Finsack shook confidence. And whilst you can put on back your roof, you can't put up back confidence. That takes more years. Who then is a hurricane with your bright self? Hurricane Melissa may have damaged the roads. Finsack damaged the roots. Because one battered the physical architecture of Jamaica. The other battered the financial architecture. And if you cannot build a country on a weak financial architecture, one displaced families from houses, the other displaced families from security. One demanded reconstruction crews, the other demanded decades of fiscal austerity to service ballooning debt. Who is the hurricane? The remnants of Finsack were not debris along the roadside. Senator Brown. They were not debris along the roadside. They were debt overhang, constrained public spending, reduced social investment, and years of limited economic pain. The aftershocks shaped policy choices long after the headlines faded. So when metaphors of hurricanes are casually deployed in Parliament, proportion matters. A hurricane in nature is a force measured in wind and rainfall. A hurricane in economics is measured in GDP collapse, systemic insolvency, generational debt burdens, and institutional distrust. There are many people who tell me, before I came on this afternoon, a lady called me from the United Kingdom. She said she would never return home if the PNP was ever to return to power. She would never return home. God is my witness. Just before I came on, she would never return home. Long after the headlines fade, a hurricane in nature is a force measured in wind speed and rainfall. But when you talk about the economic hurricane, that's not measured in rainfall, bro. That's measured in people's lives. If approximately 40% of your national output is consumed in resolving a financial collapse, if debt swells to historic highs, if poverty intensifies and growth stagnate for years, that is a hurricane by any serious definition. And language should illuminate reality, not obscure it. And if we are to invoke storms, let us reserve that term for events that uprooted Jamaica's economic foundations, not for administrators tasked with repairing them. History deserves accuracy, and Jamaica deserves memory that is disciplined as its recovery. Wholeness is a hurricane? Well, if wholeness is a hurricane, what you call PJ? If wholeness is a hurricane, what you call Omar? If wholeness is a hurricane, what you call Peter Phillips? Listen to Fitzhenley's response.
That caused those measures. But above all, Above all, Mr. President, what give me hope is that they recognize their fallow ground.
Government Senator Abka Fitz-Henley blasted the opposition for what he claims is its immature analysis of the recently announced revenue measures. Senator Fitz-Henley noted that the Holness administration presided over 10 years of no net new taxes. He says the government has been hamstrung by the almost $9 billion bill left by Hurricane Melissa, representing about 40% of GDP. He accused the opposition of lacking credibility to speak about taxation measures.
I hear Senator Brown speak about the tax package and in an ostensible attempt to score political points because of the challenges imposed by this natural disaster on Jamaicans. I invite the people of Jamaica to recall, anytime they hear the opposition speaking about taxation, it is the same opposition that when they were last in government imposed 60 billion in taxes on the backs of the Jamaican people. 60 billion in taxes on the backs of the Jamaican people.
Fitz-Henley, who is State Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, says people should not be fooled by the emerging narrative from the PNP about the recently announced revenue measures.
I invite the people of Jamaica to contemplate anytime they hear the opposition speaking about this conscientious taxation package this administration has arrived at. These are the same individuals who tax party, impose a levy on handcart vendors. And there was a time as well when they moved to tax the savings of hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans. The opposition has no credibility to speak about taxation. Absolutely no credibility.
There you have it. Those are the notes for tonight.
It's time to stop.
Thank you for joining, and we're going to go to Scratchy in a little bit. By the way, if the conversation we're having matters, then please share it with someone. Listeners, we want to say to you also that remember that the Hello Neighbor platform on your right will be on that tomorrow at 11 o'clock for the daytime conversations. Okay, daytime conversations begin tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We want to say to you also that if you want to show your appreciation for the program and the work we do here, that we invite you to take a minute and to make your contribution to our Zelle account or our Cash App. We also have e-transfer. You can reach out to the moderator. She'll be posting the information in the chat now. So before we go to Scratchy, please take a minute and show your love and support for the Politics Plus podcast. We'll be right back. Hello, Scratchy. Good night to you, sir. How are you?
Good night, sir. Good night, Caroline. Good night to the viewers and everyone. Blessed night.
You doing all right?
As always, neighbor, once we have life, there's always hope.
Scratchy, Lambert Brown said that Prime Minister Holness is a hurricane. What do you have to say?
Lambert Brown, neighbor. I often call him Lambert Clown. But again, neighbor, you listen, Lambert Brown, neighbor. Lambert Brown, neighbor, is someone who has been a part of the Senate from when? From about 2012, about 14 years now, neighbor. No major contribution, neighbor, as a senator under his belt, neighbor. I can't see the reason why the PNP continue to return this guy as a Senate neighbor, as a senator. And I must say, neighbor, that Andrew Michael Holness, neighbor, cannot, neighbor, be used as a state as a hurricane, neighbor, in no way, shape, or form, because we know what hurricane comes with, neighbor. We have one October gone, and we saw what hurricane does, neighbor. And hurricane don't come with, neighbor, with most Jamaicans being employed in the history of the country, neighbor. Hurricane don't comes with unemployment rate, neighbor, the lowest it has ever been in the history of the country, neighbor. And a hurricane don't come with a low poverty rate, neighbor. Hurricane don't come with those type of stuff, neighbor. Hurricane comes with destruction and stuff like that. So if we're going to talk about destruction, neighbor, anything that would have to be leveled at, I'll call a hurricane, it would have to be the People's National Party. And I won't even call them a hurricane, neighbor. I will call them more than just a hurricane, because I can tell you, neighbor, that the United States of America is the only country in the world, neighbor, to ever use a nuclear weapon in the next country, an atomic bomb. And I can tell you that down in Japan, where the United States used that bomb, neighbor, up to this day, 2026, neighbor, there are persons who are being born with disability as a result of that bomb, that atomic bomb, neighbor. Grass don't grow back certain places where that bomb was dropped. And I would definitely equate that to Finsack. I wouldn't even call Finsack a hurricane, neighbor. I would call Finsack an atomic bomb. Because up to this day, we have persons who are still suffering as a result of Finsack, neighbor. Up to this day, we have persons whose lives cannot come back to where it used to be as a result of Finsack. And even persons, neighbor, who weren't directly a part of Finsack, who like myself, neighbor, who was at a very tender age at that time, neighbor, and others, neighbor, we are all suffering as a result of the Finsack, neighbor. So I would say about the People's National Party and Lambert Brown, neighbor, is definitely an atomic bomb, neighbor. I would even call him hurricane. Hurricane is too good to even call these guys hurricane. You know, when they look at even Lambert Brown, can you know normally, neighbor, we don't watch man, we don't admire men, but when you look at Lambert Brown himself, neighbor, himself it even passes hurricane, you know. I can safely tell you that if I have an aunt or any family member, neighbor, who she never bring Lambert Brown and try to introduce us to Lambert Brown as a spouse, neighbor, we'll cut off that family member for life, neighbor. Lambert Brown is not the most attractive guy, neighbor, not the best looking guy. And someone who, neighbor, you should be the last person, neighbor, to try and class the Prime Minister as being a hurricane, neighbor. Lambert Brown himself is a hurricane. And the political organization that he supports is an atomic bomb. That's what I want to tell Lambert Brown.
What do you think is gained or lost when political rhetoric like this, metaphors like hurricane, is used to describe policy? Does it help citizens to understand policy impact, or does it obscure genuine debate? Scratchy, is Lambert Brown just making up noise, or
soundbites, neighbor? Lambert Brown is a guy, neighbor, who come to the Senate, neighbor, for just soundbites, neighbor. And I say he has been a senator since 2012, neighbor. No major contribution under his belt as a senator. No major bill introduced by him, a private motion bill or anything introduced by him, neighbor, someone from the Senate, neighbor. So now Lambert Brown himself is a feeler, neighbor. Soundbites, neighbor. As I often said, neighbor, empty barrels do make the most noise, neighbor. And Lambert Brown is a perfect example of that, a big empty barrel.
Yeah. I heard Mr. Hughes today, though, Scratchy, speaking about soundbites, that Dr. Chang will not give soundbites. And in the business of media, you need soundbites. Don't you think that the media itself, but when a senior journalist is going to talk about media is about soundbite, well, it is a media is about, but I wonder if I could play for you to hear. The fact of the matter is that it makes politics a theater, Scratchy, where these people go to Parliament and are looking for a soundbite so that they can make it on the 5 o'clock news. Isn't that so?
That is the reason why, neighbor, the Jamaican media is in the current situation that it is in, neighbor.
Yes, and as you talk about that, I heard Mr. George Davis today speaking about the challenges that the station is having to raise funds and all of that. I'm going to play a little bit of it for you, Scratchy. But just hold on there for me. Let me play this for you. Like you listen
To grapple with this Monday morning. But I think we have to begin with the Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, who was interviewed this morning on Nationwide. And I must tell you that Dr. Chang came out swinging. Dr. Chang is not a man given to doing interviews that are going to be gripping or headline grabbing or, going to be animated. Frankly, Dr. Chang can be rather boring as an interviewee. And that's his style. Very calm, very measured, and in the business that we do, is not the kind of man you think is going to give you a good soundbite on a slow news day. That's not Dr. Chan.
There you go, Scratch. Are we not reducing our politicians to people to you have to be theatrical, you have to be absurd, you have to be loud to make it to the news? Isn't this disappointing, in my view?
Very, very, very disappointed, neighbor. I myself is also disappointed, neighbor. That this is why we see the water down of media, traditional media in Jamaica, neighbor. And this is why you see we have so many. This is why we are baffling, neighbor, with misinformation and disinformation. And this is why,
if I may even concede, isn't the problem we have with our finance minister, where they expect her to be so, and I'm conceding on this point that we can't be promoting sound bites, Scratchy, because when we do this, what we're doing is saying that politicians need to go into parliament to be ridiculous, sensational.
Exactly, and that is why I say it again. Media, social, traditional media, water down media, and this is why persons are coming to non-traditional media types like social media to come for information and stuff like that, because persons have lost interest in traditional media, because traditional media neighbors become a media forum or a media farm where they're just all about competition and profit. It's not about bringing the information and bringing the truth and the facts to the public, so that persons have information, so that persons can go about their everyday life knowing the truth from lies. So when you hear Mr. Hughes neighbor say something like that about Dr. Chang that have been certain sound bites, so this can safely tell you that, neighbor, that if something important should come out of the ministry that Dr. Chang is covering, decided the neighbor that they might bypass him and do
for something like Lambert Brown.
Yes, for something like a Lambert Brown, because Dr. Chang mean and Mr. Hughes said it's boring, so they might go for. That's why you say, neighbor, where the misinformation and the disinformation is.
Man, you're spot on. Hold on, this, you're spot on, man. I tell you, this is brilliant stuff. Listeners, if these conversations matter to you, please share this. We're coming back to you, Scratch. Go ahead, Scratchy.
Yeah, neighbor. So I'm saying that's one of the main reasons, neighbor, and this is why we are baffling. And sometimes we come on here, we say that the government is not pushing out the information the right way. The information is being put out there, neighbor, about the vehicles, neighbor, which is traditional media, neighbor, who are supposed to carry the information, neighbor. They are not carrying it. They are not spreading it. That's why the government message is not reaching, because it is flat to them. It is boring to them. but they are not looking at the reality, neighbor, that persons need to know these information so that persons' everyday life can be much more easier and persons can access these things that persons know what is really going on. So these media houses are not going to carry everything, neighbor, that the government is pushing because it don't come in any form of theatrics, it don't come in any form of gimmickry and stuff like that. And that's why you see persons like Mr. Crawford and those persons, neighbor,
Behave like that.
Yes, that's why you see Mr. Crawford
And Mr. Hales.
and Mr. Hales, persons from the opposition side, neighbor. That's why yesterday can get so many media attention, neighbor, because it's the gimmickry, neighbor.
Miss Burchell.
And Miss Burchell is the soundbites that these news agencies and these media houses are running down, neighbor. They are not running down factual information, and they are not running down information that can bridge the gap between the misinformation and disinformation. They're all about soundbites. Whether the soundbites want to be misinformation or disinformation, these media houses are winning because they're all about selling headlines, neighbor. And that is why Jamaica is in the problem that it is in right now in terms of information, neighbor. How we dissect information and how we pass on information. The vehicles, neighbor, that are tasked to carry out information, these vehicles are either breakdown, neighbor, or they're not breakdown, neighbor, they refuse to carry it.
Yeah, what a disappointing thing. When the press scratchy, privileges the spectacular. It trains audiences to expect a spectacle. That's all.
Exactly.
Citizens become consumers of drama rather than participants in deliberation. And that is why we're struggling as a democracy. Policy becomes secondary to personality. Governance becomes secondary to theater. And over time, seriousness itself feels dull. Right?
Neighbor, that's why persons have a problem with information. That's why persons don't want to hear the information from the government. Because when the government is releasing information, neighbor, it cannot come with gimmickry, it cannot come with theatrics. So it falls flat. The press don't push it. The press don't push it. The press asks a question, and the PNP might give an answer to that question, neighbor. The opposition member might give a question, answer that question. But the answer the opposition leader give, neighbor, the opposition member, it requires some form of follow-up, neighbor. They don't ask no follow-up question on that. Because
yes,
they don't
so
want to hear
when we send reporters to Parliament, is soundbites we're looking?
Soundbites, neighbor, we're looking, and it is clear when you're supposed to go to the Parliament and come back with the information and pass on the information to the masses so that the masses can know what to do with that information now and access whatever services they can access through that information. That is not being done in Jamaica, neighbor. Media in Jamaica, neighbor, is you look, yes, George Wright is complaining, neighbor. I'm telling you, neighbor, that in the next 10, 15 years, traditional media, neighbor, in Jamaica is going to be a thing of the past because the style that they have taken up and the way that they want to go with traditional media, neighbor, that's not how traditional media work. And that's why in Jamaica, social media is becoming person's main source of getting information. If you ask somebody right now in Jamaica, them say something, they say, we hear that on TikTok. Nobody now listen about our GR again. Nobody now listen about the TVJ again because persons have lost trust in those in those institutions, neighbor. Last trust.
Yeah. So the calm technocrat becomes invisible. You don't cover him.
Invisible, neighbor.
Yeah. So like a Fable Williams, no journalist wants to cover her because guess what? She's a calm technocrat.
In Cliff Hughes' words, she's flat and boring.
Boring.
Yes,
she don't produce a soundbite for the news.
Yes, they're not going to carry that. She's not going to bring a soundbite for the headline news or stuff like that. And it is just so sad, neighbor.
It is sad.
It's so sad, neighbor, that we live in a country like this, neighbor, where the vehicles were tasked with the responsibility, neighbor, to carry out the information. It's either the vehicle break down, neighbor, the vehicle really just don't want to carry the information for whatever, for that price or for that reason.
What a fantastic observation you're making. Let me hear Harry. Harry, good evening to you.
Evening, neighbor. Evening, everybody.
This obsession, Harry, and we're going to get back to that. This obsession with the good soundbite doesn't a program like this moves away from that. But when journalists lament that a minister does not produce gripping clips, they're inadvertently signaling to the politicians to be loud, to be more theatrical. Not true? And they spoiling the menu.
Of course they are, neighbor, right? And it is all down to, to get an effect for business, right? It's all about now how we can get the dollars and what are the medium, or in this case for the plural, media that allows them to generate that level of revenue. And as such, they will stoop to any levels currently, neighbor, which we've seen, because I've spoken that the art of journalism is no longer prevalent in our society right now. What we
Wow.
have are watered down, insipid versions of what it should be, right? And as such, the people themselves of Jamaica are also suffering because traditional media is no longer bringing out the facts and the truth that people need to form their reality, to form their perspective and give their views on issues at hand. So as such, we're having a thwarted level of discussion, and it contributes to poor levels of conversation, neighbor, because we've seen it here. And that is how
Yes.
it erodes the intellectual capacity and the emotional intelligence of our very people. That is why
Yes.
topics like this, neighbor, and you'd have heard me say, listen, having an economic or even a budgeting conversation on a normal level with normal and average Jamaicans is a struggle. And it's
Yes.
not just because of their doing, neighbor, right? Because you can do as much as you can in terms of your control, but also what you consume and really and truly what is being put out to be consumed is far below accepted levels, neighbor. So as such,
What if yes?
as such, the quality of conversation is mediocrity at best.
At best, yes.
What we get is a lot of arguing, a lot of noise, a lot of use of expletives when persons are backed in corners without facts. And as such, they now have you off as one, you act like you're better than them. Two, you maybe know it all. Three, as if you are now trying to put a narrative. But the truth is, you will have the information that they don't, and they rather than level up, as we'd want to put it for an easy word, they just stick to the narrative that is being put out from the mass media, who is doing them great injustice.
Yes, and so the purpose of journalism in a democratic society is not to produce gripping theater. It is to inform citizens so they may exercise judgment. So isn't part of our problem, Harry, that the judgment of the people are not being informed because the media is producing theater?
It is, neighbor. It is at the highest level, and it is one aspect of things where we kind of beat in terms of the educational level and educational system in Jamaica. But the truth is, there are other ways to be informed, to be educated, because we have a large, like right now, we have a larger section of informal education that does more in life than the actual formal structure. Right, that is how people know is trying to learn and get beyond. So when you look at that now and see the mass media is now reducing the quality throughout on all levels, including misinformation, including misleading people, right? And we have all the evidence to show that they've done so over the last 2-3 decades with ease, right? And the truth of that is that they also hurt the intellectual capacity of our very people. So it's not just the educational system that everybody jumps and beats most times. There are other ways and other medium that should be putting forward, because neighbor, growing up, you had programs like Profile, you had
Is it still Profile?
I don't even know if it still exists, neighbor.
Oh, well, I don't even know myself.
Right.
What I saw there is not Profile.
You have good old programs that inform you of the past, and Centurions like Hill and Gully Ride, and then of course you had Mutti Perkins and all of those programs that informed you. Yes, it was for a different, each impacted different sectors or demography of the society, but every sector of society and demography actually could have benefited from these programs, and there's so many more. But no, what we look at now and what we get is for example, on all angles that is scripted and have one perspective and one narrative that they want to push. You have a lot of other programs that don't make sense. And if you're going to want to shape society, right?
Yes.
To fit a minute or a minority, because these people are in the minority, whether we believe it or not. That is the truth. And if you want them to shape your intellectual capacity and how you think, then they will extract the very power that us as a people should exercise on our day-to-day life. It simply means we're a puppet on a string.
Fantastic. Scratchy, your final thoughts on that? We're going to move to something else.
That's just a neighbor. I would just ask well-thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, and Jamaicans in a whole neighbor to just continue to know that we reach a level neighbor where traditional media is not the main source of our information again. But we just try to see how best we can get the information from the first-hand source where it directly comes from out of the government, and just try to get a better understanding from there. Because if we're going to depend on traditional media neighbor, these media houses, to tell us or let us
if
know.
We only get in sound bites.
We're only going to get sound bites, neighbor. And sound bites, neighbor, most of the time, sound bites are just empty and baseless, you know? Sound bites are empty.
So if the Minister of Finance goes to Parliament and makes a fulsome intellectual presentation, but a member of the opposition comes out with a little foolishness, you hear that on the news.
You're going to hear that on the news, neighbor, because media houses are about sound bites, neighbor. They're not about bringing forth information that can really change and help persons in their everyday life. That's not what they're about, neighbor.
Very, very disappointing. All right, listen to this, guys. Our
spokesperson on finance, Jude, buying this are persons from lower income groups. So it's going to effectively become a 10.1 billion tax on lower income Jamaicans. Secondly, the design of the tax has nothing to do with public health. It is a tax on the volume of the container where the sweetened beverages are. So it depends on the volume of liquid in it. There is the amount of tax that we be paid. It has nothing to do with how much sugar is in the drink. So there's nothing in the tax to incentivize a manufacturer who makes a drink, to incentivize them to reduce the quantum of sugar in the drink, because whether the drink is very sweet or medium sweetness or not sweet at all, the tax is the same. So if you were structuring a measure to design, with a design to reduce the amount of sugar consumed by the population, you would make it so that the tax is more if the sugar content is higher. That's not the way this tax is structured. It's a tax on the volume of the drink, not on how sweet the drink is or how much sugar's in the drink. So again, don't be fooled by what is being said about this. The reality is it's a tax to fund the budget, and it's going to be borne primarily by lower income groups, and therefore it's going to make it harder for Jamaicans who are already reeling under the pressures caused by Hurricane Melissa on the economy generally and in Western Jamaica in particular. Thanks for listening.
All right, Mr. Golding. Harry?
Neighbor.
Yes.
You have any applause there for effects there? Because I need to give Mr. Golding, for the first time, he has come with something, not in the full sense, right? But I'll break it down, so you can go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
So what he's referring to, right? And the best example is what we do with the alcohol contents in other beverages, right?
Yes.
It is based on the percentage of alcohol that is in a beverage that tax itself has an impact on. So what it really does is that the manufacturers would have either lowered the alcohol content in order to pay a lower tax. That is something he would want to see in the reverse for the sweet beverages. Now, this tax bill is not as easy and quantifiable as that for alcohol, right? Because there is what you'd have to do now, and it would take another year to flesh out fully, which the government doesn't have right now. Now, you'd have to have different tranche or different levels to see what are the content impacts. This is where also Ministry of Health would have to now put more resources in to develop and provide that data to Ministry of Finance, and then they will have to have a dialogue as to see if it's best suited. Now, we don't have the luxury for that. Is it a good idea? In theory, yes. In practicality, what will happen, neighbor, is that the manufacturers would actually just reduce maybe like a 1 kilogram or 2 kilogram to go in a lower tier, right? To pay a little bit less. But none it doesn't matter what happens, there will still be taxation on these sweet drinks. And that is something Mr. Golden refused to speak in detail. So he just mentioned it again without providing full clarity and a proper alternative, neighbor. So I don't want people to get misled by what he's saying.
Okay, no. What he said at the end there is that it will burden the lower income people. Is that really so?
No, neighbor. It definitely isn't, because what you're doing now, right? Let's say what he says has merit, right? You're now giving these people the opportunity to look to the other side now for an alternative to meet the nutritional value that they should be getting, right? And as such, these people who are earning X amount of dollars, they will not now be paying X plus 10 or X plus 2, right? They will want to go to the alternative, or else what they will do, and what we see human beings do, neighbor, is try to push and level up in terms of financially to get to something that they deem that they want, right? And that also has another effect, because if let's say your lower earning people now are pushing for more, means they're doing more, that impacts your productivity, which means it's going up, right? All in an attempt to utilize and get back their normal quote unquote drinking habits. But the truth behind it is that the government wants to kill two birds with one stone, and that is help reduce the impact on our healthcare system, right? And also to fund the short aspect of the budget.
All right. I'm Scratchy.
Neighbor.
Did you hear Golden?
Yes, neighbor.
What do you think about his argument?
Again, neighbor, I see where Mr. Mark Golden, neighbor, is just trying, neighbor, to just kind of create some confusion, neighbor, surrounding the government tax package, neighbor. And I think as Harry said earlier, neighbor, I also think from the government side, neighbor, government members we have to know what we are doing, neighbor, when you're in government. And I think the government members need to come out and also clarify it, neighbor, because the PNP, neighbor, is pushing a narrative that as if the reason for this tax package is solely so that persons, neighbor, turn from these sweetened drinks or these alcoholic beverages, So I would definitely agree with Harry that, neighbor, the government is taking a two-prong approach. The government is also trying to say, yes, we would love to know that less persons consume these type of beverages, neighbor. But at the same time, there's also a shortfall in the budget, and if persons do not choose to cut these type of beverages, we're just going to ask that these persons, through them contribution, continue to fill that gap that we have in the budget as well. But I think if the government, neighbor, push the narrative as if the reason for this tax is just solely so that persons can deviate from these type of drinks, neighbor, they'll put the government in a sticky spot, neighbor. And the government just...
But let me ask you this, Scratchy. Why are we focusing on individual taxes here? Is it not, in my view, an almost disgrace that after a hurricane which took away almost 40% of our GDP, the country is discussing a tax package of what, $20 billion?
20 to 30 billion dollars, I believe, yeah.
But Scratchy, hold on. Is that not something that we probably shouldn't even be talking about? Taxes to help build back the country, Scratchy? After 10 years of no new taxes, we are spending time on this tax package.
Personally, for me, neighbor, I said it earlier, neighbor, that I don't see this tax package as anything great, neighbor, as anything that would deviate or cause anybody, neighbor, to lose them job or cause anybody to fall deeper into poverty, neighbor. Mark Golden speak about, the speech a while ago, speak about $10.1 billion being levied at the lower end of the economy, neighbor. $10.1 billion being lowered at the end of the economy, neighbor. It's basically to say that it's kind of like 2 persons or 3 persons are going to suffer this $10.1 billion, neighbors. It all depends on the amount of drink you consume for the year. So if you buy 10 Pepsi for the year, neighbor, and there is an increase in by $10, neighbor, you may pay
$120.
It might cost you maybe $120 for the year, neighbor.
Well, I actually did something today. I think a 300 milliliter bottle will cost you $6 more.
$6 more.
A 600 bottle, $12 more. And a 2 liter, you know the 2 liter
Yeah, the
Pepsi,
2 liter, the big one, yeah.
$40.
So that
No.
is so that is just going to show you neighbor that Mark
Yeah.
Gold neighbor is just trying to create some
So if
form
you buy a bottle of you know those ordinary bottle of Pepsi,
yes.
$6.
So let us show you neighbor that Mark Gold is just misleading the nation again, neighbor, when he come about talking about $10.8 billion being levied at the lower end of the economy, neighbor. As if this $10.1 billion is going to be on the backs of 5 people or 10 people alone. You know?
Yes. It is all the people who drink Pepsi.
It is all the people who consume these beverages.
I mean, more than 2 million people
More
share
than
that.
2 million people.
Oh
So
God.
it's just so sad from the opposition leader again, neighbor. Trying to score
Yeah.
cheap political points, neighbor.
Yes.
But you know what's funny, neighbor?
Yes.
I see KFC raise price on a regular. And it's now by now $6, now $3, $12. I buy from 50, 100 and up. And KFC is still
Yes.
full.
Never affect chicken price.
Neighbor, KFC I run out of chicken because I remember one day, because I don't do much fast food, right? I'm a home cook person. And we'll go about 2 KFC and KFC out of chicken on a Friday. And I'm wondering why them have the bill, why the stores are open. Just close it if you don't have any chicken. And people are still flooding the area. And if we look at that, compared to the drinks, it is nothing because Jamaicans will not give up them KFC.
Ari, couple years ago, I can remember KFC chicken raised within 3 times within a 2-month span or a 3-month span. 3 times KFC raised the chicken within a 2 or 3-month span, neighbor. And that never stopped anyone from buying KFC chicken. Person just come out and talk for a moment, neighbor, but at the end of the day, Jamaicans love them KFC chicken. Jamaicans love
We're going to get back
KFC.
to Lambert Brown in a while. But Harry, don't you find it incredulous that the PNP is pushing the tax narrative as a negative at a time when Jamaica is trying to recover from a hurricane? Don't we have a conscience here, Harry?
But we do, but those who are speaking don't. All right, because I know Mr. Lambert wasn't in Senate at the time, right? Scratchy, this February make the 14th year for him, you know. That he's in Senate, so he wouldn't have been their neighbor. But when Ivan struck, what was the justification to add GCT, to increase GCT? What was the incentive to add additional tax? After the whole debacle with FinSac and all of that, and Abka would have mentioned it. What was the incentive and what was the thinking behind taxing the very savings of the people of Jamaica, right? These are the things that even in times they cannot justify why they did what they did, but they also now want to come and flip the script, being hypocritical, of course, right? And being totally disingenuous. To want to say this is not a time to ask the people of Jamaica to chip in. The people of Jamaica have gotten almost a decade of break. If you are smart enough, in that decade, you would have leveled up yourself financially, find many different ways, and you would have strengthened yourself as an individual, as a community, as a nation, as a sector, right? And that is exactly what Jamaicans have done, hence why we're able to absorb this 41% hit in our GDP, because it could have been worse, right?
Yeah.
And of course...
Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah. Of course, when we look at this 41% neighbor compared to what happened with the whole FinSac, it's way bigger. The hit we got now and how we're handling it has to speak to the proper fiscal management, risk management of the administration, and how far the Jamaican people have actually come in trying to put their best foot forward and put brand Jamaica forward compared to back then, where it was just at you take, me take, everybody take, who are in that minute section. And these are the people now coming out who would have benefited from that era and has crippled generations to come, right? And put Jamaica on its knees. They're the ones who think they stand in any credibility to come and speak about a tax package.
Scratchy?
Yes, neighbor.
I'm asking this, Scratchy, and I'm asking it as a real serious question. Is the government not being unfairly criticized here, Scratchy? Oh God, man. A government that has not given us a tax package for 10 years, Scratchy, has grown the economy, has created jobs, has invested in every area of Jamaica, has seen development. Billions of dollars spent in crime. A hurricane blow, and then come with a little tax, and we are here arguing about it, Scratchy. This no right, man.
Neighbor, in my short time that I have been on this earth, neighbor, and in my short time, neighbor, where I've been following up politics, and can say that in my time from in the 90s, I'm not fine. I don't reach nowhere near 40 years old as it. In my time, neighbor, from reading about taxes and coming up, neighbor, I can safely say to you, neighbor, that this is probably the most relevant tax package that Jamaica has ever seen, neighbor. I think that at any time, all those other taxes that were levied on the backs of Jamaicans, neighbor, this one is more relevant at this time more than ever. This one is more understanding more than ever, neighbor. But at any Jamaican, neighbor, we definitely won't have a problem, neighbor, in playing their part, neighbor, in the advancement of this nation and participating in the development and the redevelopment and the reconstruction back of the nation by understanding that Hurricane Melissa, which is a natural disaster, not a man-made one, a natural disaster that we have no control over, neighbor, came and caused some form of destruction on the island, set us back by 41%, as I often say. Two key sectors, neighbor, were impacted. Tourism, which is our biggest foreign exchange earner, and agriculture, which is also our means of feeding our citizens and stuff like that, neighbor. Those two areas were impacted. Persons' house, persons' personal lives, neighbor, were impacted, neighbor. So for all of us, neighbor, to chip in and play our part, neighbor, and say, yes, we can build back faster, and also not just build back faster, but build back stronger. And a tax package of 28 or 30 billion now, neighbor, that is levied on 2.8 million of us, neighbor. I can't see an issue with that, neighbor, as a well-thinking person.
Yeah, but Scratchy, a lady called us last week here. The government sent her a check of $200,000, Scratchy. Some people are getting $500,000, Scratchy. What is wrong with this country, Scratchy? What is wrong with our people? What is wrong with Mark Golding and the PNP? What are they criticizing? What are they arguing about? $2, 46 cents on a is 46 cents on a liter of Pepsi.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying here, because even though the government is saying that going into the new fiscal year, neighbor, 2026, 2027, neighbor, we need 28 or 30 billion dollar, neighbor. At the same time, right now, neighbor, the government is in the process of giving out $10 billion.
But then why is Mr. Golding leading this criticism of the government and making Jamaican feel as if the government is doing something bad, Scratchy? It don't matter where you put the tax. The fact of the matter is that the government need a little help at this time to build back the country. So why would we leave Westmoreland alone then? Don't give them the money down there.
Don't give them the money down there, yes. Don't, better than neighbor, the 400,000 persons that voted for Mark Golding and the People's National Party. Don't give none of them people the money out there. I want to put back on the money.
So the people in Westmoreland, they're not to get any support. Where money to come from?
No support for them down there. No support for them down there. Neighbor, I can tell you, neighbor, that this $28 billion, neighbor, that the government is asking for this $30 billion, neighbor, I can tell you, neighbor, it will be directly going towards the infrastructure and the redevelopment. Because if you look at the line item of the budget, neighbor, the infrastructure part of the budget, neighbor, last year, it was what? $60 billion, neighbor. And this year, it is almost almost $100 billion, neighbor. So, the infrastructure, the capital side of the budget, neighbor, that is directly goes towards roads, water projects, rebuilding and reconstruction of houses and stuff like that. So the government is expanding that, neighbor, from 60 billion last year to about 99 to $100 billion this year. That is great, neighbor. That is showing that the government is have the best interest of the people at heart. And the government is planning to make sure that we have to build back stronger, and at the same time we have to build back faster. So Mark Jefferson Golding, neighbor, as I often say, this guy is not a patriot, neighbor. This guy is not. We don't know where this guy is.
You think Mr. Siaga, Mr. Golding, not even Portia similar would up, not even Peter Phillips, because that man no finance, Scratch. Only Golding would have come out with this line of attack, man.
And Mr. Golding have an idea of finance, neighbor, but the main reason why Portia seems similar and Peter Phillips and PJ Patterson would never do what he's doing right now, neighbor, is the fact that they are patriotic Jamaicans, neighbor. They are true-born Jamaicans, born and bred Jamaicans. And none of them never share an allegiance to any other foreign nation or foreign power. That is why, that neighbor, sometimes, neighbor, it's not what you know, it's what is in your heart, neighbor. And the best interest of Jamaica is not in my golden heart.
Yeah. Harry, you want to help me with why is the opposition leader pushing back against this tax package at a time like this?
Well, neighbor, one of the biggest things, is to, and I said, I spoke about it, the smoke and mirrors. Remember, we're still asking the opposition for the plan they promised 3 weeks after the hurricane, which they haven't produced. We're also asking for the accountability of the money they got from the relief from their fund, right? These are critical things being asked by the opposition. And what they're doing is finding stories, sound bites as we want to put it and all of that, to try and turn the heads of Jamaican people to something else and take the spotlight from them, taking accountability for what the people need to know. So that is one of the major things. Neighbor, you realize every single week they try to find something?
Yes.
And they're strategically doing it. And the more people turn their heads to these, 9-day talks, because that's what I classify them as, these quick upcoming stories and what they say, the more they think people forget that they as opposition have collected money on the backs of the people, which we know nothing about, and we're not going to wait until no report, financial report comes about, right? It also speaks to the fact that they themselves have not done anything for the recovery and relief of the people of Jamaica in that section, especially in Westmoreland, right? So they're using these narratives and using these stories, right? Sound bites as we put them, to try and move and turn the heads away so people don't put them back under the microscopic lens. But what they're failing to see is that as they try to do so, people remember the harsh, almost at the brink of annihilation period that they created in Jamaica. So they damn if they do, neighbor, and they damn if they don't. But they have failed to realize that, right? And now to try and act as if they are doing something, as if they are contributing something, they're just going to nitpick things, neighbor, and not give the full context, which is what we're seeing happening now. So they're going to come with a lot of farce being spoken, neighbor, and push narratives which we've seen even before the September 3rd election. So they're still on that trajectory to try and mislead the people of Jamaica and try to shun the spotlight away from them.
Listeners, it's 2 minutes after 9 o'clock. If you are appreciating this conversation, please share the live. If you appreciate the conversation, please share the live. If you think that more people in Jamaica should be hearing this and across the world, just press the share button and share it to someone. All right. In the meantime, we're asking you to remember that the program depends on your financial support to keep going. And so if you are listening to us now and you want to support the program, then we ask you to go to the Zelle account and make your contribution, or to the Cash App. Moderator, please send me the number for the the number for the local number for Jamaica, because I have not I'm not been able to remember it. So send it to me, please, moderator. Listeners, let's take a break, 2 minutes, and come right back. And in that 2 minutes, please show your appreciation to the program by sending a contribution to the Zelle account or the Cash App. Thank you. And if you're in Canada, we also have e-transfer. You're in Jamaica, 876-858-9553. 876-858-9553. That's a WhatsApp number, all right? So if you WhatsApp us, we can tell you how you can make a contribution. Getting right back to Harry and Scratchy in 2 minutes, we want to talk about Senator Lambert Brown calling the Prime Minister Hurricane Andrew. We'll get back to that. So the gift option on this program is is disabled, so we don't accept we can't accept gifts from that source. So you have to go directly to the Cash App or the Zelle account. All right. Remember also that tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, the daytime conversations will be opened on the Hello Neighbor page. So that's the page to my right, 11 to 1, daytime conversations. Hello there, connecting the dot. Hi.
Good evening, neighbor, evening, everybody. How are you?
Hold on, sir. Coming to you, okay? Hold on.
No problem.
Right. Okay, so we're going back in shortly. A little bit of bunny that they are hypocrites is another story. Scratchy, Scratchy. Let's get back to what went down in the Senate last week Friday. The characterization of Holness as a hurricane, Andrew, as Hurricane Andrew, is the type of soundbite we spoke about earlier that or probably shouldn't even make the news. I was wondering whether we should be talking about it, but because it is already out there. Won't you agree with me that the only economic hurricane we have had is Hurricane Finsack? And if Holness is a hurricane, what would you call Omar Davis and or Peter Phillips?
Yeah, but Omar Davis, Peter Phillips, PJ Patterson, neighbor, and all Mark Golden and all those are part of the People's National Party, neighbor. They're not just hurricane. I don't classify them as no hurricane. Hurricane is natural disaster. Hurricane is something that we have no control over. I class these guys as weapon of mass destruction, neighbor. The People's National Party is a weapon of mass destruction. All our members, neighbor, make up that weapon of mass destruction, neighbor, including Lambert Brown. Because even if you look back at Lambert Brown history and the type of person that Lambert Brown is, I'm sure Mr. Connecting to that mic can give you more history and who Lambert Brown is back in those days more than I can, neighbor. But I can stay to the neighbor that guy shouldn't even be a senator, neighbor, because of what that guy has done to this country. He's a trade unionist, neighbor, and a trade unionist, neighbor, who was brought divide, neighbor, amongst our hard-working workers, neighbor, whichever organization or companies that these guys lobby on behalf, neighbor, they tend to buy into them with the PNP agenda, neighbor. Whenever the Jamaica Labour Party is in power, Lambert Brown, neighbor, pushes these companies and these organizations that they support, neighbor, and that they lobby on behalf of, neighbor, to push the government and force the government in corners, neighbor, for the government to bow or try to yield to whatever financial needs that this person might be asking for at the time. But whenever the PNP is in power, neighbor, Lambert Brown can manage to have these same organization, neighbor, enter into 7-8 wage freeze, 8-year wage freeze, and long phase of wage freezes, neighbor. So this is a show, neighbor. Lambert Brown is not the nationalist, neighbor. Lambert Brown is not the patriot, neighbor. And Lambert Brown is the last person, one of the worst senator right now. I don't see this guy 14 years in the Senate, no major contribution to the senator, to the development of Jamaica, neighbor, more destruction than ever. And from someone like Lambert Brown to come and classify Andrew Michael Holness as a hurricane, it is a total disaster and an unfortunate statement by him, because I can tell you again, neighbor, hurricane don't come with 3.5% in reduction, 3.5% unemployment rate coming from 13.5%. Hurricane
Yeah.
don't come with 8.5% poverty rate, neighbor, coming from 21%. Hurricane
Yeah.
don't make increase in minimum wage from 6,000 to 16,000. Hurricane don't
Uh-huh.
do those type of things. Hurricane can't find $40 billion to do spark program in our 63 constituencies. Hurricane don't make it can have 100 water projects. Hurricane don't come with new hospital being constructed. Hurricane don't come with new police station being constructed, new fire station, and more Jamaicans working more than ever in the history of this country. Hurricane don't do those things, neighbor. The People's National Party, neighbor, they are weapons of mass destruction. All they have done, neighbor, is administered bitter medicine to Jamaicans over the years, and Andrew Michael Owens has reversed it, neighbor, and is now giving us vitamins. Vitamins that we can now strive on, vitamins that we can now survive on, and vitamins where we can have back our dignity and our pride, because that was taken away from us by the People's National Party, neighbor. They are not hurricane, they are a weapon of mass destruction. I would have called them something, but I won't, because they're just the interest of the program. These guys, neighbor, they are a weapon of mass destruction, neighbor. Look at the current leader. Neighbor, this guy opposes everything. There's nothing that Mark Golding has said that, yes, the government is doing right and we can agree with this. Nothing, neighbor. Not one single thing the government has come with since Mark Golding has been the opposition leader. He opposed every single thing. And I think, neighbor, the reason for that is because Mark Golding is far from the reality of most of us as Jamaicans. Mark Golding is not patriotic, neighbor. Mark Golding does not see, neighbor. We cannot identify with him. If any of us, neighbor, all of us on the platform, can look around and look at Mark Golding and say to yourself, do you have a uncle that look like Mark Golding? Do you have a cousin that look like Mark Golding? Do you have a parent that look like Mark Golding? No, neighbor. This guy is someone who's very far from us, neighbor. We cannot identify with him, and he worse cannot identify with him, neighbor. Our language, neighbor, our style of talking, which are most renowned for and loved for around the world, neighbor. He always try to attempt it, neighbor. When he attempt it, you can hear it, how this fake it is. It is not authentic. It doesn't come off real. So this simple show you, neighbor, that this guy is not one of us. And Mark Jefferson Golding, neighbor, should be booted. And Jamaica need to come out and put maximum pressure upon Mark Golding, neighbor. And Lambert, bro, Lambert is an empty, baseless barrel, neighbor. Empty barrel makes the most noise. I always expect that from Lambert, bro. I'm trying to come with sound bites instead of substance. That's what the PNP did with, neighbor. Sound bites over substance. And I can safely say, neighbor, all of them must go. Every single one of them. Weapon of mass destruction, them be.
Harry?
Well,
Harry, the multiplier effect of FITSA would have rippled on for years. Financial institution collapse, credit tightening, businesses failing, unemployment rising, poverty deepening, the chain reaction, which I am sure it resulted in the crime levels we have. If ever there was a hurricane, Harry, wouldn't it be during that time? How does the characterization of Holness as a hurricane sit with you?
neighbor, I think Mr. Lambert needs to go and speak with Miss Burchell, because I guess she knows everything about, similes and metaphors. And I don't think that one works or is applicable in this case for Mr. Holness, right? Mr. Lambert has gotten it gravely wrong in its entirety. And as such, I think he needs to also retract that statement as well, neighbor, because it does neither the Senate justice nor represents a reflection of the Prime Minister. Now, when we look at what would have happened in the 90s with the FinSAC and so on, neighbor, there's no hurricane that we know of that could have concocted such a level of disaster that lasted generations and generations to come, right? Now, for me, neighbor, it would be more of something like what happened in Ukraine, in Chernobyl, where that radiation action left everything dead, annihilated cities, remove hopes and dreams for even those who tried to help clean up the situation, because they themselves have also passed on illnesses in generations. That is the disease. That is the epidemic levels of what passed through Jamaica in the 90s, right? Which led to that devastation that we're still feeling, right? That initiation of of that era, neighbor, let's just say the decade 90 to 2000 or 1990 to 99, that is a decade of wrongs done to the Jamaican people at that time, those after and those to come, in such a level where it can't take another decade to correct it. It definitely won't take another 2-3 decades to get right either, because the multiplying effect that it has had on sectors, on institutions, on lives of the people of Jamaica, right?
On the financial sector, the architecture of the financial sector, the confidence of people in that sector.
Neighbor, up to this day and age,
yes,
we look at the financial sector and people will not even dip their toes. Neighbor, it is crazy to the levels as to how people still rather go put their money under the mattress.
You're telling me, sir? You're telling me we have never recovered from that, the confidence that was lost. Not to mention the Ponzi scheme that came about, sir. You remember
several of them, neighbor.
And how people were so traumatized and lacking trust in the system that they went to the Ponzi schemes.
Exactly. Because they saw that as a more viable option than the actual system that should have been protecting and working for them. The system that was institutionalized to create that wealth took away the thought of the wealth. So it is not even that it went into action. You're robbing the dreams and hopes of the people as quickly as they think it. That was what happened in that period, neighbor. So much that people rather fled the country. In fact, it annihilated our manufacturing sector. What our manufacturing sector could have been, no. There's no country in the Caribbean region with the potential at that time as our manufacturing sector, and we ensured that we crippled it in that period, right?
You said something last night. I need to jump over to my friend. You said something last night that even with the hurricane, there were parishes in Jamaica and people that today would say they didn't even know that there was a hurricane. They haven't felt the impact. Is there any parish in Jamaica that have not felt the impact of FINSAC, Harry?
Neighbor,
Is FINSAC not worse than Melissa?
Neighbor, FINSAC even affected the diaspora. That is how wide scale it was. Right? Because we understood that remittances were coming to Jamaica, and these remittances wasn't just to take care of families. These were invested in businesses. These are businesses.
FINSAC affected the people in the diaspora
significantly, neighbor.
Oh my!
And also, right? So it didn't just those who were already there, the UK and the eastern section of the US and Canada and so on. Those that made it out to that period felt it, because financially they had to be taking care of more than just two households. No, the one where they're building and back home here in Jamaica. But what it also did, neighbor, was that it spread more in terms of the diaspora. Jamaica diaspora grew because people had to fled the very country that they were trying to build. This is why Jamaica is in the top 10 as one of the biggest diaspora in the world, not because of people choosing to do it, neighbor. More than half of those people who fled had no choice but to do so. And that was created in that era. So when the People's National Party come and speak, they should once they see a mic and they hear what the topic is, they should walk away. Do the Jamaican people the justice and don't speak on matters that they have no credibility on. Because all that you'll hear are excuses, are misinformation, and pointing of fingers for things they did. Even if, because you have a few new ones who aren't of that period, but not highlighting and pushing the narrative to change the very ideologies as to the lineage of the party is also contributing to the very existence and continuity of that thinking. And that is something which shows that thinking that caused FINSAC debacle and the erosion of our financial sector and many other sectors in Jamaica that we thrived on is still prevalent today because the thought process is still in that People's National Party. So it still hasn't gone away, neighbor. What Jamaican people has ensured is that they don't give them the opportunity for the last 3 times to exact that same thought process in action.
Yeah. Connecting.
Yes, sir.
If the Jamaica Labour Party should say to you tonight, connecting the dots, respond to Lambert Brown's criticism for us on our behalf, what would your response be?
All right. Because the context is very important, you know.
You are responding on behalf of the party. You have a once in a lifetime opportunity. Let me hear you.
All right. Context is very important. The PNP in those 18.7 years. Of those 18.7 years, they levied tax against it on the backs of the Jamaican people. 17 of those 18.7 years. 17 years. Are we now wondering? I am now asking the question as to whether or not if they couldn't give us a little break during that period. This government, for 10 consecutive budgets, have not introduced any new taxes in 10 consecutive years. And the context now is very critical. We had a pandemic in 2020, almost 6 years now, where the economy shrunk, I think, by minus 10% because of the pandemic. 4 years after that, there was Hurricane Beryl. There was no new taxes during the pandemic. There was no new taxes after Beryl. Now we were hit by powerful Category 5 Hurricane Melissa last year. October 28th last year. That has done significant damage, reportedly wiping out approximately 40% of the GDP of the country. When the PNP, by its own poor economic policies and management, caused approximately 40% of the GDP to be wiped out in the 1990s, they imposed taxes and after their own doing. It was no hurricane or natural disaster. It was the Pandemic National Party, the PNP, that imposed that on us. So when Lambert is coming here to talk about Hurricane Andrew, you should know that during the 1990s, and I'm going to just use one example here, the company Mutual Life, which was established in 1844. It was founded by one of the co-founders was George William Gordon, now late national hero. Mutual Life survived the 6.5 earthquake of 1907 that resulted in a fire and loss of many lives. Mutual Life headquarters and along Barry Street was actually damaged by the fire. But they still paid, in 1907, you know, they still paid all the claims that were placed on the company because they were so solvent in 1907. Mutual Life was one of the, at the time, it was toppled by the Pandemic National Party. It was the single largest financial conglomerate in the entire English-speaking Caribbean. And the Pandemic National Party toppled Mutual Life.
I want you to respond to Mr. Brown. Are you doing that?
Yes, I am getting there. So no, the hurricane can't navigate us 19 consecutive quarters of growth before the pandemic. A Hurricane Andrew could not navigate us to another 10 quarters of economic growth after the pandemic. And all the quarters are after Beryl saw economic growth, except those 2 quarters immediately after the hurricane. Until now, we have another hurricane in 2025. A Hurricane Andrew could not steer this ship to build a highway between Maypen and Williamsfield from our tax dollars. No new loan, no loans. A Hurricane Andrew could not navigate us to rebuild the Cornwall Regional Hospital, which will take probably cost us about $20 billion, which was destroyed by the Pandemic National Party. A Hurricane Andrew could not rebuild the whole Goodyear Tire Factory, which was first built in 1967 by the JLP, shut apart in 1997 by the Pandemic National Party, but no rebuilt by Dr. Andrew Michael Holness' government. A Hurricane Andrew could not be building the Montego Bay Commission Road. From all of these things now, with no new taxes, no new net taxes imposed by the government, something that the PNP lived in. The PNP itself told us that they were going to impose new taxes without even the hurricane, without even an inkling that there was going to be a hurricane. They had committed. So I tell you something, the question I'd ask Lambert, if Andrew is a hurricane, how would you describe Mark, who was proposing new taxes before there was any word that there was going to be a hurricane? Mark was proposing new taxes, you know. So they don't have no more legs, neighbor, to stand on to speak to the Jamaica Labour Party now about the opposition of taxes. The people trust the Labour Party and they trust Andrew Holness and they trust the government that he leads, and that is why they elected him for the third consecutive term on September 3 last year. And I land here.
Fantastic. Project in Jamaica, good night, sir.
Good evening, neighbor. Good evening, Uncle Connecting. All those who are listening, Miss Caroline, Scratchy, Harry.
Project in Jamaica, the Jamaica Labour Party sends you the tape of Mr. Lambert Brown and asks you to craft a response on their behalf. How do you advise?
The Jamaica Labour Party, I don't think, will respond to Lambert Brown.
But they have.
Yeah, but I mean, not in a full sense, because Lambert Brown is really seeking some relevance, you know. Lambert Brown used to be important when he was sent on a mission with his car filled with Molotov cocktail to cause some damage to the country. Yes, man, it's even recorded because he mentioned it last sitting of the Senate. You know, that he needed, with the new law that Delroy Chuck passed, that he needed a pardon to. You know, so Lambert Brown is really a shadow of himself. I mean, the last time I saw Lambert Brown trying to have a conversation with him about 18 years ago, I was wondering if he was paying attention to me, because I was standing to his left and he was looking right. Lambert Brown is really not of any importance. And Lambert Brown is really not of any influence. When Lambert Brown can talk to us about the group that he was a part of, that used to drive around Jamaica and cause mayhem, then he can mention Andrew's name. A matter of fact, it is surprising that he calls Andrew's name and him 32 teeth not drop out of head. It is surprising. Lambert is just a nobody. They are just paying Lambert for all the sacrifices he made for the party, but by keeping him in the Senate. That's all they're paying Lambert for. They're paying Lambert for all those times he railroaded the leaders of the different chapters of unions that represented workers right throughout the public service. And Lambert used to just manangle them in meetings and give them 1% and 2%. So Lambert they're just paying him by keeping him in the Senate for all those sacrifices he made on behalf of the party. These people don't care about Jamaica, including Lambert Brown. Lambert Brown was a part of that group that planned what would have been the outcome in Grenada. The same thing, the same incident that now Professor Trevor Monroe is being called upon to answer to so often. And if you notice, neighbor say it that way because I know you fear. So Lambert Brown is really of no moment. But since he wants to talk about hurricane, there were 3 hurricanes throughout the 19 years. Charlie, Ivan, and PNP. He needs to talk about the one we say PNP. That's the hurricane Lambert Brown needs to talk about. Lambert Brown needs to talk about Hurricane Manley, Hurricane Pattison, and Hurricane Portia. Obviously, Lambert Brown is...
Hold on. Portia?
Yes, man.
Sister P was a hurricane, sir.
Sister P was a figurehead leader, you know. But
But a hurricane?
personally, she caused some damage to my family. And that's why I said to you, say, when we come on, if we're willing to speak the truth in a neighbor,
be conservative.
Platforms are going to get locked down. And people
No, but I would have wondered, my goodness, I wonder how much, hold on, let me see how much they send us since night already.
My family suffered from Porsche hand in the 1970,
Take time, brother, take time.
No, man, because I share a personal experience when we have a run left way house. When Porsche that ride around on bike with the pipeline in our waist, you know?
Oh my God.
So Jamaica has been hurt by the PNP in more ways than one. And we have to understand.
Yeah, but her time in government, would you call that a hurricane?
Yeah.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. The PNP not do nothing nice between 2012 to 2016, neighbor. It is the mess that they caused in the 90s that they were being pressured by the IMF.
Let's focus though, protecting on
I'm focusing on
the major hurricane of Finsa. Wouldn't you say that of all disasters in Jamaica, that's worse?
Hurricane Finsa, caused by tropical cyclone in multiples PNP, is the worst thing that hit Jamaica, the worst ever catastrophe that hit Jamaica. And so I fast forwarded to 2012 to 2016. But up until 2016, even up until 2018, we were still cleaning up from Hurricane PNP. Even now, if you ask the Prime Minister will tell you that a lot of the things that he's dealing with, the things that comes to his desk, are from the PNP. And guess what? People who owed money, where the PNP makes suffer, properties that were not sorted out, different government institutions where owe people, where all sorts of nonsense. I mean, Hurricane Operation Pride, where the Prime Minister still have to deal with. 16 billion was spent on paper, but only 8 billion could be accounted for. You know, all these things were caused by the PNP, and all these things were because of two people in Jamaica. One of them are classist and one of them are racist. The racist who protested with his mother against poor people that them nothing can live uptown. And the classist who promised his father that he would become a billionaire, but also that he would lead the PNP and trouble soon come. So the PNP can take no praise for 2010 when Bruce Golding put in place the fiscal accountability framework from 2010. And all Mark Golding as Justice Minister did was completed the rules that Bruce Golding started to draft anyway, completed the rules, brought them to the parliament and passed them. So the PNP cannot be given any praise for IMF to stand over them back and insisted that they did something. The Jamaica Labour Party has proven to us many times over that without any coercion, this is our template and this is how we operate. Build Jamaica from the ground up, improve people's lives, expand prosperity throughout the country, expand the middle class. So the Jamaica Labour Party has now turned what was the middle class into the upper middle class and has created a new middle class in Jamaica. And neighbor, we must always have this discussion in the context of the PNP has nothing to be rewarded for in Jamaica. They have made no contribution that is so significant that we should recognize them. And I will not give them any reward. I won't give them any kudos. I won't even tap my fingernail for them. So Lambert Brown needs to stop distracting and face the truth that the People's National Party has been the worst catastrophe that has happened in Jamaica. A matter of fact, let me go a little bit further. When the People's National Party is in power, Jamaica is like a graveyard. They are demons, and they must always be rejected for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 terms in order for Jamaica to prosper. Lambert Brown soon gone. We don't have to worry about him. He almost go with the air. Him get a
Oh,
second
oh, oh,
chance.
oh, 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 oh.
It is the product of sound
Yeah, okay.
fiscal and monetary
Hold on.
increased investor confidence and a growing economy that is attracting capital rather than creating capital flight. We must never allow the failed policies of the PNP to destroy what we have built. Madam Speaker, an important factor in achieving sustained currency stability is the country's balance of payment. The balance of payment is like the country's current account. It's our income statement with the rest of the world.
Let me pull up the strategy. I'm gonna take you back to the Prime Minister addressing this FinSac matter. Scratchy.
Yes, neighbor.
The PNP may have unearthed a wound that they probably wish they didn't do, because it is true, Scratchy, that the Jamaica's worst times came under the People's National Party. And if Lambert Brown is going to talk about Hurricane, then there is no way that he's not to look over his side. The Hurricane came right from there, Scratchy, to be very true to this conversation. A hurricane of FinSac magnitude cannot be underestimated, Scratchy. And to have called the Prime Minister a hurricane is almost as if Mr. Brown is trying to pick a fight that he can't win.
Well, Lambert Brown is disrespectful and rude in his rhetoric, neighbor. You can never.
Fiscal year 2023, 2024.
Never. You call Andrew Michael Wellness hurricane. No, Andrew Wellness name, neighbor.
Shows the quarterly current account balances since 2012. It shows that we.
Yes, Scratchy, go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew Michael Wellness name, neighbor, cannot be associated with anything like a hurricane, neighbor. No time in time. You talk about hurricane, neighbor, you talk about FinSac. When you talk about hurricane, neighbor, you talk about prickly pole primary. When you talk about hurricane, you talk about furniture scandal. When you talk about hurricane, you talk about traffic bureau. You know, when you talk about hurricane, neighbor, you talk about all of those type of things. Those are things that are hurricane. And those things cost us, neighbor. And Andrew Michael Wellness, neighbor, being in government from 2016 till now, has not cost this country 1 penny, 1 red cent. When you talk about hurricane, neighbor, you talk about the PNP in 2014 or 2015, I believe, neighbor, when all the world projection were showing us that oil prices, showing us that oil prices is going down. And the People's National Party still went and put an insurance against oil. And oil fell, neighbor, for below $50 a barrel. I will last $1.9 billion in that. That is a hurricane. Again, neighbor, hurricane costs you. And Andrew Wellness has not cost us 1 penny, neighbor. If anything, Andrew Wellness has done more for this country, neighbor, than any member of the People's National Party and any other Prime Minister that we have seen in the history of Jamaica. Andrew Michael Wellness. Hurricane again, neighbor. Don't come and try to fix a compensation package of public sector workers. Something that every single Prime Minister, neighbor, in the past 20 years or more was afraid to tackle. Minister of Finances were afraid to tackle it, neighbor. And Andrew Wellness with Dr. Nigel Clark, neighbor, tackle that and made an increase, neighbor, public sector transformation, neighbor, over $200 billion increase to the public wages. So when I talk about hurricane, neighbor, you ever talk about the People's National Party, neighbor, Andrew Wellness' name cannot be associated with anything that has to do with destruction, neighbor. Andrew Wellness' name is all about wealth.
He's a builder. He's the builder.
The number one builder, neighbor. This guy has not cost us 1 red penny, neighbor, since he has been in government. So it cannot be hurricane because hurricane come with costs. Neighbor, look right now what is going on. $10 billion is being distributed across the destruction area as a result of Hurricane Melissa. Never in the history of Jamaica, neighbor. Never in the history of Jamaica, neighbor, where a package of that magnitude has ever been created by the government, neighbor, in terms of grant that is being given directly to persons who suffer any damage or any loss as a result of Hurricane Melissa. Never. When you look at COVID, again, neighbor, the first time in the history of Jamaica, we saw a care package again, where Jamaicans were given a $10,000 grant, neighbor, as a result of COVID, neighbor, putting persons out of work. The tourism sector, The tourism sector didn't lose one worker, neighbor, not one worker was got fired because the Jamaica Labour Party put structures in place to make sure that whether you're a tourism worker, we're going to give you a package every month or every 2 months or whatever. So when they talk about Andrew Holness, neighbor, they talk about the tax rebate. Never in the history of Jamaica, neighbor, we have no tax rebate like tax refund in America and Canada and them type of countries here, neighbor. Andrew Holness instituted that again, the Jamaicans receive a 20,000 neighbor as a result of their tax that they were paying. So you cannot call this man Hurricane neighbor. Hurricane is something that cannot be associated with the name of Andrew Michael Holness. Andrew Michael Holness is a builder. Andrew Michael Holness is the greatest thing that we have seen since sliced bread, neighbor. And Andrew Holness is more of a blessing than anything else to Jamaica, neighbor. And he's not no blessing in disguise. Because once you have two eyes, unlike Mr. Lambert Brown, neighbor, you can see clearly that Andrew Holness is a blessing, neighbor. And I can say to Lambert Brown, you need to apologize because you disrespect the greatest person in our political landscape that this government, this country has ever seen, neighbor. The man who single-handedly, neighbor, changed the political landscape of Jamaica from a political standpoint and change the governance structure, neighbor. That's why I tell you, it is so difficult for the PNP to gain relevance, neighbor, because Andrew Holness, neighbor, in his leadership style and in leadership quality, neighbor, has changed the ball game. No more media leadership, neighbor. No more come and soundbite leadership, neighbor. No more leadership where just come and talk and try to please the masses. Andrew Holness, neighbor, change all of that. And that is why I say Mark Jefferson Golden cannot and will never be the Prime Minister of Jamaica, neighbor, because they are all dummies. And if they have sense, neighbor, they learn from Andrew Holness. They learn from him because this guy has single-handedly, neighbor, changed the political landscape, change the governance structure, and change the infrastructure of Jamaica, neighbor. No other Prime Minister, no other government build more road than him, neighbor. No one of them more than build more house than him, neighbor. This one single-handedly crafted in the social housing project. Over 400 houses supposed to give up by now. Neighbor, they cannot match him. And that is why they are trying to attack him. But God love him, neighbor. And we as well-thinking Jamaicans, we will always back him. And we will always pray for him. And I can tell you, neighbor, that Andrew Holness is a blessing. One of the biggest blessings that Jamaican has seen in a long while, neighbor. And we deserve him, and we love him, and we're going to make sure that he's preserved and he's there for a very, very long time. Because Andrew Holness, neighbor, way younger than Lambert Brown, and he has contributed more to the welfare and the development of Jamaica than Lambert Brown, who stand up in the parliament, in the Senate, and I will call this man, the builder, a hurricane. Lambert Brown need to look at himself, neighbor, and say, what would he call himself? Because I don't know who's you. You don't know position to critique nobody. Lambert Brown, go get yourself in order, man. You're a empty barrel.
If I may, neighbor, just for a second. Scratchy, you mentioned, I think it was connecting before, mention the Goodyear tire factory out of St. Thomas. That was built in 1967 by the JLP. It was Lambert Brown who locked it down, you know. In a negotiation, you know, his union, National Workers Union, wasn't getting what they were asking for in improvement of salaries. And instead of taking what they were getting for the workers, why they were angry? They were angry because they needed a little bit more so the workers could pay them a little bit more as union fee or union dues. Because they were not getting what they were asking for, they locked down the company. Forced the company to lock down in 1997. Lambert Brown led the lockdown of the Goodyear factory. These people are not pro-development. They are not pro-industries. They are not pro-anything. Lambert need to go hide in one cave. He need to go find one cave in one bush somewhere and go hide or camp out till we don't hear nothing more about him.
Yeah. Harry?
Neighbor Scratchy have me laughing a neighbor.
Yes, he does bring that flavor here. It's fantastic. Yeah. But Harry, do you think that this type of dialogue in the Senate lowers the standard of Senate? Because the Senate should supposed to be a place where there is greater intellectual rigor and discussions. Is it not disappointing what is coming out of the Senate in recent times?
Well, neighbor, to be truthful,
it's a review chamber.
Right, but to be truthful, what we're seeing in terms of a lot of persons who have returned to Senate, specifically from the People's National Party side, they have not gone ahead to improve. They are still off old ways of thinking. Jamaica has moved, leave them neighbor, and that is the sad part when you look at the fact that this is an integral area. This is the upper house.
Yeah, what Lambert doing in the Senate?
Neighbor, I think really and truly, I think there
representing
should be
workers.
a neighbor. Only he can tell you what, and protecting would have dropped some golden nuggets earlier on it, because the truth is there's no merit, because I believe the upper house, you should come with something. Like if you are removed from either side of the aisle, if you're removed, then there should be somewhat of a maybe a deficit to say yes, when you're not there, there's noticeable difference. And I don't get that in terms of the assembly of the opposition and the team that they put over there, right? A lot have been unproven. Those also would have been archaic at best. And as such, they have to revamp and come again. But the truth is, neighbor, you have one side trying to foster development and push higher levels and higher standards of thinking through the different bills that they're looking into. But when you hear the discussions and listen to the rhetoric being put, it's really a night and day difference, neighbor. Well, you listen to Abka and Tavares Finns and Keith Duncan, right, who spoke on the asset tax as well, dropped some very good nuggets. And then you listen to what the opposition centers are saying.
You're right about that, you know, so you're right about that. Yeah.
It's and the funny thing about it, I would expect, for example, more from Keisha Anderson, because she's been in the sector for quite a while, especially with Keith Duncan. She has worked under him. So I expected a lot more, but I don't get much of that. It is almost like they have gone back into one way of thinking, and that is more in terms of supporting a few rather than the masses, which gets Jamaica moving and gets Jamaica going forward. So it's one in which, as I said, day and night, one is trying to help Jamaica, and the other is just there to probably collect what they can, see out their time, and just sit easy and look nice, neighbor, to put it at an easier terminology. But we expect a lot more, because this should be the highest level of thinkers, right, in the different sectors, different areas that come together and form this melting pot of high-level discussion and see how best it can help Jamaica from an infrastructural standpoint, systematic standpoint, and strategically. But you can't get that when you have a Lambert Brown, a misuse metaphors, neighbor. If you're misusing something simple as metaphors, then I can't trust your strategical thinking. I don't know what you're going to put forward if it would be of a mandate that helps the Jamaicans, the very small man out on the street, because you're not even thinking straight. And I can't accept that is the level where
you can't see straight neither. Not only think straight, you can't even see straight neither.
It's scratchy, I behave, you know. But that is the truth, neighbor. It is, I think what's happening now as well is that we've seen an even higher level of Senate from the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor, those who have selected.
I agree.
And as such, the opposition would have pretty much stagnated for quite a long time, are being shown up, even on average, just by what is put forward. The simple conversations seem like they're also out of their depth, and that is very crucial to see what is going to put forward from that house.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm connecting.
Yes, sir. I just need Scratchy to clarify something before I move on. He said that Keisha worked on the Keith. I need him to clarify that. Never mind, Harry.
Oh, no, man.
Never mind, Harry. All right. The question that I have on my mind. The Hurricane Melissa wiped out 40% of the GDP of Jamaica. Well, the question for us is, which is worse? The PNP, the Pandemic National Party, the PNP, or Hurricane Melissa? And let me put that in perspective. The PNP, by their policies, wiped out 40% of the GDP of Jamaica. And so did Melissa. What
Yeah.
did we get after the PNP wiped out 40% of the GDP? We got taxes after taxes left on us, and massive loans from the multilateral organizations. Melissa, natural disaster wiped out 40% of the GDP. What did we get? We got assistance from overseas. We got loans, concessionary loans, and we got massive assistance locally and internationally. So it is a fact. It is an established fact that the PNP did more damage to Jamaica than Melissa. No one can question that. So when Mr. Lambert Brown is coming to describe Prime Minister Holness as a Hurricane Andrew, he has just opened a can of scorpions.
Yes.
Not worms, scorpions. You know, so I think we're giving Lambert too much attention on. I think we need to move on to something else with degrees of respect. I think we're giving too much credit and putting too much emphasis on the statement made by Mr. Brown. You know, we should now move to tell the people who Dr. Holness is. And what
tell us.
And what his government represents.
You tell us.
His government, the government led by Dr. Holness, represents what other governments were not able to do. No other government in the last 21 years was able to bring down homicide below 1,000. We were at 673 last year and trending down again this year. No government from the PNP nor the JLP was able to reduce homicides in 3 consecutive years. Dr. Holness did that. No other government was able to build a township since independence. We have a brand new urban center in Marnbay, St. Thomas now. Another one going up in Port Antonio at Bournebrook as we speak. Groundbroken last year for one in St. Mary, the Baskerville community. And we have a commitment from Dr. Holness that every township in this country will have an urban center. The level of investment in water. The PNP left us a light bill for street lights of $9 billion in 2016. $9 billion, and this government paid it off within a short time. That is what the government led by Dr. Holness represents. Not a hurricane, sir.
Yes.
This government represents our future, the future of Jamaica in the next industrial revolution. And we need to, you know, what my greatest disappointment is, neighbor.
Tell me.
I'm gravely disappointed in some of my Jamaican family, especially the middle and upper class. Those in the middle and upper class who have not taken the time out, who have not seek to take an interest in what happens politically in our country. And so when it comes to election cycles, they don't know. They lazily, intellectually lazily classify the two parties as the same, and they are not the same. They are absolutely not the same. But they have not spent the time and the effort to jump on the internet and say, let me just try and find out some things about these two parties. Let me listen to one of these programs and let me not accept what anyone says. Go in it objectively and go on the internet. A lot of information is on the internet, you know, that we can get. And then when it comes to election cycles, they lock up in their gated communities and in their big houses with their grills and their padlocks. And they don't go to the poll. And they allow people like those who we saw at, and I don't put on people, you know, those who we saw at the EO circle there during the demonstration against the FID head there, Mr. Dennis Chung. 6.5 dozen the other. The man can only accounts. Those are the persons we are allowed to decide our future. While we make excuses and say the two of them are the same. No, they're not. And I have a bone to pick with some of those persons who sit at home, who ask their employer for time off to go vote and go home or sleep. That's unpatriotic. Stay at work if you're not going to vote. Stay and spend the hours and do your work and be conscientious. So yes, I've always been trying to appeal to these persons to come out and not only come out, but pay attention. Once you pay attention, you can't miss who to vote for, You can't miss that. Once you begin to pay attention.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so somebody else can contribute now.
And
Yes,
if I may,
protecting.
they are bitter neighbor. And we ourselves need to pay attention so that these don't escape us. The PNP has always been petty, stupid. They have always been this way, deranged. But too many people have not always paid attention. They are bitter and angry neighbor. I shared with somebody some time ago a very personal story where the PNP is concerned. And I said to the person, the PNP literally lives off the government. They
Lives off the government.
Off taxpayers. Yes, that's how they operate. They live. That's why when the PNP is in power, there's no money to do anything. They mine their supporters and they pocket taxpayers' money for themselves. When the PNP is not in power, neighbor, it's a dangerous situation. And we are seeing it. We have been seeing it for 4 or 5 years. And we are going to continue to see it the longer they spend in opposition. They are angry and bitter. The PNP depends on being in government, and the supporters at the level of Mr. Brown depends on the PNP being government so that they can sit on 3, 4, 5 boards. That's how they survive. That's how they live. Now, a lot of them, as we saw the heads rose up against the JLP in the society, in the election, the long election campaign, a lot of them are angry that the PNP lost because they were working for their plate of food.
Yes.
Board over here, so board over this, and especially now that remuneration is increased and improved in Jamaica. Sitting on those boards, oh my God, man. They would love that for another 5 years. The PNP has nothing sensible to offer, The other day when you played that comment by Dr. Andre Arnton, I was taken aback, neighbor, because it was the same Andre Arnton just before the election who stood up in the parliament in the Senate. And he was reading something and he couldn't be bothered. So he just continued, blah, 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 blah. They are not interested in governance. They are not interested in doing anything that makes sense, that's meaningful and purposeful in Jamaica. All they're interested in is power. And they are disappointed that Hurricane Andrew sweep them over upon the opposition benches again. Yes, Hurricane Andrew, since you know I call him Hurricane, him blown over. So go sit down in the opposition again. And that is why they are angry and vexed. And don't think that it is not going to continue to be personal. It is going to get worse, even leading up to the local government election. Because if Mark Golding is still there or not, they are still going to make this local government election a national election like they did the last. It is going to be a national election for them. Because they know that they won't get any central government money to Walla Walla and as they choose. So they are going to always try to control the councils. So whatever the council make, them can do with it whatever they please. And watch it tonight, me tell you now. The local government election coming up next year, that is due next year, February, they are going to make it another national election. Watch and see.
National. We have a couple of callers. Hello, Arthnell Williams. Hello, Arthnell. No, this is serious. Hello. No. Lavi.
Yes, neighbor, how are you?
You've been listening, I'm sure. You have a comment on what we've been talking about?
Well, good evening, gentlemen and lady, and all the viewers. Yes, I've heard quite a bit of what has been said, and I listened to Lambert. I don't know if anybody picked up something that Lambert was saying, but there was a glee that he had about when he referenced this streak that has been broken, the 10-year streak. There's a glee because they want to paint the government with the same dirty brush that they have been painted in by their own actions. So there's a glee. They're so happy. They're happy and they're conflicted. They're happy that the 10-year streak is broken, so we can't say it again because every time we say it, they feel bad about their 17 years of taxes. At the same time, they are against it because it will bring political dividend. That's what they think. So they are conflicted. But I can't ignore the grievance that I hear in Lambert's voice.
You think he's grieved?
Oh yes, that's a man that has grievance. Yeah, that's not just a man talking for a political point. It is personal. There's something going on with that man. I don't know what it is, but it is personal, and he's projecting. It's a projection that he's doing. You know, there's a quote that I often hear Mr. Morty Perkins used to repeat. It says, "Every criticism of art is a mode of autobiography," meaning that when a man critiques a piece of art, it says more about the man than about the art. And I think that is what is happening here. This is not a man who thinks that the government is hurricane. This is a man who thinks that he's on this. This is a man who thinks that he is in the hurricane. He is a part of the hurricane that devastated Jamaica between 1989 and 2007. He's projecting. He knows that the title that he's putting on the Prime Minister is befitting for them. And nobody with any sense could ever be so crazy and so drunk. Probably he was drunk to be calling the Prime Minister hurricane. Not with the kind of result. There's no government. Government that we have had that has had such an impact, positive impact on Jamaica. None. And that is where the grievance is. The grievance is they are looking at and saying, boy, when this man done with Jamaica, his legacy is gonna outstrip everybody else, and we can't afford for that to happen. These are men whose life has become better under Andrew Holness. They have had better opportunities to invest and to build. These are ungrateful people. Because their politics is more important to them than their principles. So I agree with, I'm not sure who made the comment earlier, that we spent too much time with Lambert. Lambert is looking for something. He's looking for somebody to talk about him. But I hope that after tonight, we don't talk about Lambert. Because Lambert is an old relic, and he should be in the museum down at Hope, wherever they have their head at. Where the place called? Hope Road. Hope Road, the museum there. The PNP museum. That's where he should be. I don't know why they let him out of the cage.
Old Hopeless Road. Old Hopeless
Road.
Yeah.
Why they let him out of the cage? I don't know why they let him out of the cage. And this thing about having him is as if he's a career senator. Every year, every time the PNP they put him back. You tell me that Marky G doesn't have anybody else that he doesn't see anybody else he can invest in for the future? All this talk about including the Maroons in the Senate, You mean that this was not a good opportunity to tell Lambert to sit down and let somebody young from the Akompong come and be a senator?
The PNM, my brother, 250,000 a month. PNM.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy, and this is it's just disrespectful. It is not even half true. If it was half true, you could say, all right, we understand. But it is not even half true, not even quarter. Like, come on, hurricane, they are the hurricane. They turn Jamaica inside out. That's what they did. The wind of the hurricane was so devastating that you had 44,000 businesses that were affected. 40% of the GDP gutted. We have commercial banks like collapsing. And the wind was so strong that it was the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. And they said it themselves. It was one of their MP, Mr. Thwaites, who said it. Well, yes, he said it before he became a part of the parliament. But they know it was true, so that's why they put him in the parliament. So this man, Lambert, let us not spend so much time with this. After tonight, could we just move on and just
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to
man,
do that. But
yeah,
there
man.
was something.
When I think about Lambert, I think about
There was something to be made.
yes. There is a thing that used to grow in the trees when I was growing up. We used to call it old man beard. It always suck itself onto the limb of a tree. It doesn't have a root of its own. It's like a parasite. And we call it old man beard. It has a very old, rough, ugly look. We don't need to be elevating these things, man. We don't need to. After tonight.
That's true. Yeah, but we're not elevating it. The fact of the matter is that traditional media hasn't
True. Taking
it up. So
Yes,
it bears something, eh?
Yes. And I understand that we have to, listen, we have to defend our Prime Minister, you know. We understand that. Because they're not going to do it for us. We know the value of the Prime Minister who we have. And we have to defend him with whatever we can. And that is why I get involved posting videos and stuff. That's the only purpose I'm in it for. To support the government and to put out the good news and to remind people as often as I can, in any way that I can, of the 90s especially. Because I've been posting I'm telling you, if you see the feedback I get sometimes from people, Jamaicans in Jamaica and Jamaicans abroad, and they're saying, why? I forgot about this part. Thanks for reminding me. We have to remind people because there's so many things going on. People tend to forget. And if you don't remember where you come from, brother, you're going to end up back there. And me don't want to go back.
Okay, all right. Then Harry?
Yeah, bro.
We're gonna move on. Your final thoughts on this Lambert one matter as we move to 10:30.
I mean, neighbor, to be honest, I think Lambert is just making his last final grandstand, or he may think it is a grandstanding, but it's really just it's going to be harsh, but it's the truth. It's a pathetic narrative. It is a rhetoric that should no longer, as Lavi say, get much in terms of any airtime per se. But regardless, I think it's time, full time now. He has recognized his lack of contribution in the Senate to that level of magnitude and just see his way out. Because when you look at so much opportunities there to discuss and get the limelight for something good, something great in a time like this, to be contributing to conversations that will help Jamaica rebuild together and rebuild stronger. And you go ahead and choose to attack the Prime Minister, once again falling in line with the party narrative. It shows that these people still choose party over people. And when you're in the Senate, you cannot be drawing party lines when it comes on to these conversations. You have to look forward. And I don't remember. I think it's Arthur who spoke before, right? And he gave a very good intake, because he said when he was representing the financial sector, when he was a part of it, his vision was narrowed, right? Because he would have focused on the business maximum and what they can get through. But now that he's in Senate, it is one that he has to broaden his horizon, broaden his spectrum to understand and take in more variables that can help not just push a sector going forward, but the country overall. So you have to take into consideration. But we're not getting that type of thinking and conversation level, neighbor. That is the bare minimum, you know. That is the standard you should have when you're a senator, regardless of your party lines. But we'll look at it, and Lambert Brown don't even make the bare minimum right now, because again, I would have championed the aspect of saying we have to protect the legacy of the administration. We have to also ensure that we demand a higher standard, and it's showing up more and more, because if that is the best in a riveting conversation, neighbor, that is the best a senator can come up with, then it says a lot that you don't want to advance your fellow men, and you should just step aside. The level of dignity and well-thinking that you should have to know that you are no longer contributing anything. You're at a level of diminishing return if you were ever beyond diminishing return. And you have to walk away. But we don't see that from the opposition, regardless of what era they stand in. And that says a lot about them and their character, neighbor. So it is just distasteful, right, at this level. And it doesn't bode well when people from overseas look at the upper house and say this coming from the upper house, neighbor. As Scratchy said, there's no statesmanship. And that is what you expect as well from that era, because these have to be makers, shakers, and movers of the society. And I don't know where Lambert is shaking and moving, neighbor. But I think it's time he's bringing down the curtains on his career, because I think these people have taken politics, has taken being in parliament and being in the upper house as a job to live by, right? And as such, time is winding down for him. So this is his last, quote unquote, last hurrah for him to go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, connecting. Thank you, protecting. That's all the time I have.
Okay. All right.
All the best, neighbor. All the best to everybody.
Yeah. Great. Moderator. Moderator, I don't know if I have any other guests lined up. If Jerome Bryan, hi. Jerome, hi. Owen Myers.
Neighbor, Wagwan.
Hi, how you doing, man?
Long time there, man. You good?
I'm fine, hi.
Yeah, I listen to the program.
Yes.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, we try to see if we can tackle some of these issues and bring some clarity to the situation, you know?
Nice, man. A good program.
It's a good program. That's just fine.
But boy, I don't know. Lambert.
Yes.
Lambert operates in a business by the parliament.
It is what?
Lambert operates in a business differently from parliament.
He's a trade unionist.
Oh yes, I remember. Sure. But definitely nothing else. I mean, like, I don't know. Lambert sick, man. In some instance, he looks sick. I don't know what I must say about Andrew.
Well, no, let's not comment on his health, because that is something that affects every human being. But let's comment on what he has said. What are your views on what he has said?
Let's show you give me a heart attack.
Oh, Joan, mute for me.
Come in.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna say rubbish to myself.
Yeah, you don't think that Holness is no hurricanes. It's a joke, not true.
Neighbor. And the great, you hear about Michael Jackson, one of the greatest man that passed on earth, and Jonas are the greatest thing in Jamaica right now. Greatest thing. So, I don't know what Lambert at all about. I don't know what I'm saying. Remember people just suffer the PNP government. You see, like April I come before my grandmother passed off, you know, them have a look coffee to men that will pay tax or save or fret about taxes. Or tax or kill them. I'm a proper little boy. I'm a live to make a run 10 style here with no new tax. Business people make money, business people happy. Every little man can bounce on and a float. You don't know what I'm about. I'm sick man. I'm brain, nothing else but in I'm brain. Yeah. Yeah, well. Trust me. So, I just want people to know, say, I'm the greatest province I ever created in Jamaica. I'm going to hear people, I want people to big up Bruce Golden to choose the button and give Andy one start from Bruce Golden. Because Bruce Golden could have given Alden Shaw, he could have given anybody else, but in choose and see the potential of Andy Honest. And so that the youth have run Jamaica. And he never disappoint us. No. So more the people and more the people more defend our party big up Bruce Golden some more. Bruce Golden take the trend. Yeah man. Bruce Golden he back to Andy Honest and defend him. And whenever no war or no fight in a party, I would say, yo, I'm going to work with you out here. And bring Jamaica. Bring out Jamaica. Yeah, man. So I have a big up Bruce Golden. So most of the people who support their party, Bruce Golden more thumbs up. I'm not hearing nobody being up like that.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
Made a good point.
Yeah. And I was satisfied whenever I'm fighting like how PNP them a fight and they want another after Bruce Golden and Jonas and thing. When I know so and I'm fighting with us humble. Well, we look at disputes, but we deal with it in the right manner. And we could respect and Jonas and people love him and man come and build up those bullet things, build up the country, make people get work. People in Jamaica right now want workers and can't get workers. Got work available. Remember, you know, neighbor, and a PNP did in the right one resume. Months and years to drop off a letter and told the PNP them in the system. The PNP them was to tear people resume and dash away. People could get work.
Is that so?
I mean, neighbor, man. It takes remember in the private sector, them be a PNP full up in there, you know. Be a PNP to full up in the private sector.
Which parish are you, sir?
Manchester, man.
Oh yeah.
Man, Manchester, man. Top plumber in Jamaica.
You what plumber?
You want top plumber, man. Remember me that in a hurricane.
Oh yes, how much money you work today?
Well, be honest to you, I go up on a work. I'm not lie to you, I'm not exaggerate. I go up on a work and get the job and I'm write up my job and everything. I have 14,000 deposit I take on it. The 14,000 estimate fee.
Yes.
Yeah, man, 14,000 charge. And the people them are youth from fine. I have to itch and I say plumber this reasonable. I'm gonna start it tomorrow. So I'm comfortable. Lay down on back on my bed. I look like I'm a pretty house top.
You have a pretty house top there, sir?
Decking one, 14 feet tall. Yeah, man. Go to Manchester and cool. I'm a place quiet and nice and clean environment, good. And Jesus are blowing a place. Place clean up with Jesus, man. Comfortable.
Of Jesus?
Yeah, man. Comfortable.
Jesus in your place,
yeah,
sir?
Man. That's the neighbor, man.
Where you come from?
Jesus.
Uh-huh.
But the creator of the earth, man.
Down there with you?
Yeah, man.
Listen to me.
Yes, man.
Uh-huh.
The place clean.
Which room him sleeping?
Him just pass with the atmosphere, man. Him just pass with I leave him looking at the place and him clean environment, man.
Oh no. Uh-huh. This is why we don't have him up here. Yes. Uh-huh.
Him did the neighbor. I tell us all.
Yes.
Yeah, man, neighbor, I tell you the truth. I tell you, you see, the amount of time the PNP do in our country, if they do it, Andrew honestly, you see.
Uh-huh.
We just have one unity and one love where everybody that love. Cause they're like them now. Maybe we don't say we just have one unity, one set of team around Jamaica, so we happy. But them never do nothing. Them never. When the country grew like all in the early 90s, 2000, when the world had broom.
Yes.
I don't know Guyana, you know, Guyana and Jamaica never they grow. Neighbor, if people can go back or Google and read, you know. Remember when one brother Ghana, Trinidad Guyanese, Jamaica suffer. And I say, people I say Fresh Prince, I say PJ, Fresh Prince, PJ. And I say,
yes.
What people I do? What people I say, what people I do, they must be mad. Because PJ don't really do it for Jamaica, you know.
No?
They don't do nothing. He build one little piece of road and he build the little bus park up off a tree and build a couple borders give people and give friend them some money and rob some money and friend them get some big contract. That's what all our PNP, all our PNP them not get support now. That some PNP get something out of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a couple MP in them a food. Kind of can't like them and get feelings of PNP them now. Yeah, so PJ not do nothing. Look on this neighbor. We got a World Cup and PJ take $9 million. $9 million, you know, and buy one ball and put it in France. How much people in Jamaica have visa for go to France to see ball? You know, if the ball they got Kingston and Montego Bay, you know, the amount of tourists could come and make money for that. We go up and Jones can get back the ball at Jamaica. We can't get a World Cup again because PJ sell out the country, you know.
That's why we don't qualify again.
Qualify. Man can. Remember I said the 38 richest man of France, you know, take holiday for meet PJ, you know. People don't know about that, you know. The 38 richest man of France take holiday for meet PJ Patterson. The wicked man there. That wicked man.
Well, we don't know if he's wicked, but
well, you know, not about killing, but the way he behave to Jamaican people. Or if you take $9 million, buy one ball, where we struggle, when the Smos come back and say, we got a World Cup. And me can carry my grandparents them go town and man take a bay in the park and say, yo, this is a time when 94 we got a World Cup. We can't go to France, neighbor. I don't have no money to go to France, go look on the ball.
Well, that is true.
A tourist that come to Jamaica, come look on the ball and say, yo, Jamaica got a World Cup. And
that is true.
When the Smos and the player them.
Yes, that is true.
That could make billions of dollars in Jamaica, you know?
That agree with you, sir.
And the man take the money and the bag of France. I mean, you no Jamaican lick out for the man.
Uh-huh. By the way, you watch cricket?
My best game that.
Yes, you realize the West Indies trash Zimbabwe today?
Yeah, man. But honestly, me just
look at Hetmeyer, sir. And our boy Darren Powell.
He slapped somebody.
You think we have a chance at winning the World Cup?
Well, the ball is running, neighbor. So
and it's hard too.
And it's hard. But let's pray.
So when you go meet one, send one drink for me, man, with all the money I make through plumbing.
Neighbor, with that man, I have some poor people. I donate to poor people, you know, neighbor. But I just don't have to use no camera. I'm gonna have to use no camera.
Yes.
Me give people things, man. And take care of poor people and so on. You go and buy things. I'm a young youth, my chin and my plumbing. I buy a tool for them and sitting. So we take care of people, but when I go jump up and down, when I have a bow spot on camera, we see where things better. So when I have no camera light, I try exaggerate myself. We just do what I have to do and do
rough man Powell.
Yeah, man, and try to do the right thing. And just work with the private side country, obey man, cut down and just be yourself and not involved with no police and just we can up yourself, we can go about with business, have party life and enjoy yourself and praise Jesus and something serious. You see what I say?
Yes.
Jamaica nice, man.
Yes, it is nice, sir. It is nice. Let me ask you a question, sir. Are you married?
Yeah.
You're married.
Yeah, man.
And you have children, sir?
Yeah, man. Get kids, yeah, man. Have children.
Yes. How old are they, if you don't mind telling me?
Well, our children, 25, 24, or 18.
You have children 25 years old, sir?
24 or 18.
You don't sound like an old man. You sound like a young youth.
No, man, 19, then the 9th of February, 1974, my born. 9th of February is my birthday, Monday, I'll do my
you're 51. You're 51.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Your children, sir, have grown up in a different Jamaica from yourself. Have you spoken to them about the prospect of Jamaica? How hopeful do they feel?
Well, they understand and they feel, them see the difference at Jamaica. When I tell them and show them the vibes. And them, as I said, neighbor, you know, them later they spend the born with a better brain. So them born with them brain building them system. So them understand more. Them go for the world, them go for the life, the enjoyment of life and enjoy themselves. And them get good advice on them mother and me, because two set of people, you know. One of my wife and then two outside, two baby mothers, so them different. So two people different. Two mother, baby mother. So differently. So when talk to them, because I used to work for Colonel Charles at town, you know. Yeah, man, there's Miss Charles of a place at Louisville, Russell Heights, nursing place. I work for them, Queensville up at the General House and thing. Well, we don't have to expose nobody, but we work for some iron people in Jamaica. I mean, some good people. Clean iron people, chain link, one work move on to the other. So
yes,
we're in the system, and we know I'm in the system. I know so the system never nice. I know the system take time. I come better than better. So I have to appreciate the system. Cause I remember a PNP government, you know, that about 2000, you know. I'm not tell you say. When we got children in the hospital, I have to cut out our tans. I have to pay 60 grand before it. When my daughter tans swell up, you know. Swell up children, you know. Just say people never dead. I have to find 60 grand. I never know cash like that much, you know. I do my thing and you know the tough on a PNP government. I have to find me $60,000 cash. If you look at that, our tons, I said, Judge, I'm rate this government upon free up things, even though the health sector was so hot still, and I grown it. But if I better come, remember in the hospital, there's some big old tough bully tree bolt, some big tough bully tree. Lambert, man, have some in the hospital. Tough like a rock. No, I say set in the hospital, no, set in the hospital. No hospital, I want to set in. Remember the first time I go to the hospital, think of that and peace and everything. Hospital far better. And I just government, I know somebody has no plastic bag on operation. I remember when I PNP days, I have to use a scannal bag to operation. I have to pay. You know, some people that get locked up in the hospital. And a PNP government because they can't pay for the operation. They do the surgery and they never pay their money. And people not Jamaican at home, nobody them something.
Wow.
Things better.
Yeah.
You know, 100, you know, things better. Find more money. When I grew up on a PNP days, I was only a rich man neighbor. I want car like
yes. I've got to run, do you hear, sir? Gotta run.
Yeah,
take care. Yes. Let's take another call. Hello, Bless. Hello. 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 Hello, Joan. Hello, Joan. All right. No. tax and you wanna talk with us, give us a call. No, we have a few more minutes that we could spare with you tonight. If that is it, then Protecting, are you still there? Hello?
Yes, neighbor, I'm still here with you.
Yeah, okay. Protecting, as we seek to draw the curtains down on tonight's program. The budget cycle is up on us. The government, they have proposed some taxes for Jamaicans, and I think it is reasonably fair. Why Protecting is this becoming a political issue? And do you think that the government is winning the debate in this tax measure, and at the end of the day, the opposition will not score any points, even though they are so they're objecting so strongly about these measures?
I'll answer you this way, neighbor. One of the things about the Prime Minister that I love is that not every public statement made by others to draw his attention, he responds to. Not every one of them. But the ones he responds to, he responds comprehensively. Do you notice, neighbor, when the Prime Minister speaks, you can literally have a full year of discussion from the different topics that he raises in his statements. And that is one of the good things about Andrew Holness. He's well researched, he's very disciplined. I believe, neighbor, just as I posited a few nights ago, that the government can come out ahead in this debate if they use a little drama and theater. Because that is what the PNP is using to draw the attention of people. And because of how serious it is, and because of how important this is for the people to understand what the government is facing, the government needs to draw their attention. And I believe that Andrew Holness understanding that Favour Williams is not as animated as Nigel Clark, she's going to need his support. And so when he presents, he's going to have to dig deep, field wide, but make it make sense. And it's not hard. It is not hard, neighbor, because the PNP, there are so many receipts out there of the PNP and the evil they have done to Jamaica that you can literally just scratch the surface and hurt them. And I believe that Andrew Holness is going to come with some receipts, and his presentation is going to make a lot of sense to Jamaicans, and he will have to be animated, because I don't think he's going to be speaking for an hour or less. He has to speak for more. This is one of the instances that I will support the Prime Minister speaking for more than an hour. But he will have to engage the citizenry while he presents the history.
That's to make the case.
Right, just to make the case and make it comprehensively, neighbor. So the people of Jamaica, we're paying attention now. It's not like before. I believe the people of Jamaica are paying attention, and I think by and large, the people of Jamaica have sense. By and large, the people of Jamaica, they approach the politics, they approach nationhood now with some wisdom. I mean, we need more people with that wisdom, with that kind of understanding of issues to participate politically. But until we get there, I believe the people of Jamaica are paying attention. And so those who want to, create disruptions and to distract, I really don't think it's going to work how they want it, because the people of Jamaica are really paying attention, and they themselves who are the voices of the PNP. They don't have any credibility themselves. So they're really going to have a hard time to make something stick. Andrew Holness is going to come out at the end of this 2029, 2030 as a king in Jamaica.
A king?
Yes. It's going to be Hail Andrew, it's going to be Sir Andrew, and it is going to be 1 p.m. Dr. Andrew Holness.
Wow. Well, that's going to have to do it for us tonight. Want to thank you, sir. Take care of yourself.
Anytime, neighbor. Have a good night.
Well, listeners, that does it for us on the podcast for tonight. Of course, we're going to be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and I made a little error when I told you about the Hello Neighbor returning to daytime talk, the conversations, daytime conversations that actually begin on Wednesday, okay? On Wednesday. So I want to thank you for staying with us. We have been here since 7 o'clock. Hello, Daphne. How are you doing? Hello, Daphne.
It's time to stop wasting money. Reggae Fusion.
This is for you. Joyce Major, this is for you. Joyce Major.
Equal rights and justice is our everlasting song. Unity and progress will make our nation strong. Stand up for your rights when you hear the bell. Stand up for justice, hear the freedom bell. Remember us the man we serve you well. Stand up, Jamaicans, when you hear the bell.
There's no pain.
All right, everybody, good night. You here, take care of yourselves. Catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye.